I'm good.
All right, we got Teddy Atlas in here. Thank you, buddy, for coming, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for bringing me here. Appreciate it, and I didn't get lost too bad. A little bit, but your man Tony got me directed, so I appreciate it. I'm not good with, Cus D'Amato, my mentor, he used to say to me, he would joke with me and get on me a little bit and say, you spin Teddy around and he's lost. And I said, because you're worse. What are you talking about? Like, you get lost all the time. We go to the shopping center, you get lost. And he'd say, yeah, but if you give me a compass, I find my way anyway. I said, but people don't carry around compasses, cuz we're not in the army. But when I was in the army, we're not in the army. A compass isn't being used out here. So, you get lost the same as me. But unfortunately, I prove Cus right too often, where I do get lost. But I got here. I was almost lost going to the bathroom. I mean, this place is a little bit of a maze. You left me.
No, it is a maze.
You left me. I warned you. I said I might not get back immediately. And one of your guys came and brought me over.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just as bad as you. And this place is a maze. When I first got here, it took me a year because it all looks the same.
Still a maze.
It's still a maze. It all looks the same.
Yeah, your guy was telling me, some people get lost, trying to make me feel bad, I guess. You guys.
No, he's not making
You're all nice people. And that's always appreciated. So he's saying, the pictures, people follow the picture. It said breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Breadcrumbs on the way. That was a good one, man. So before we get started, a big thing is the foundation that you have, right? The Theodore.
Dr. Atlas.
Dr. Atlas.
Yeah, Dr. Theodore, yeah. But Dr. Atlas.
Yeah, tab 2. Yeah. You want to take us through this a little bit?
Well, I guess in order to talk about it, I have to say the origins of why it started. 26 years we've been around, and obviously it's named after doctor. I am not a doctor. And it was named after my father. And he was a doctor. When he passed away, I just thought that it would be a good way of remembering him and to kind of carry his work a little bit. Not that we could ever get close to carrying his work, but he was 55 years. He practiced medicine in New York, and he had a huge practice, people, because it was back in the day where there were no, HMOs. There was no Obamacare. It was either you were lucky enough to have a doctor who took care of you, or you wound up in a clinic. And quite frankly, the clinics weren't the best health care quite often. Especially in areas in inner cities and stuff like that. So my father, for 55 years, he took care of everybody who fell through the cracks. He did house calls till he was 80 for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he did it because he knew those people couldn't get out. They couldn't get out of their houses, the projects, wherever they were. They just couldn't, and they couldn't afford, to get taken care of in the proper way. So he did house calls till he was 80, and he actually built 2 hospitals. He actually built a hospital before the Verrazano, for the people in New York, Staten Island. The Verrazano Bridge came about, I don't know how many years ago, long time ago. But before the bridge it was more rural, Staten Island. And he built a little hospital called the Sunnyside Hospital, and it had 21 beds. And he built it for one reason, because he noticed that people weren't getting proper hospital care, obviously. So he figured, I'll start a hospital and they'll get it, and I'll absorb the cost. And people, it was a good hospital. So some people, the people that have money and had proper insurance, it covered the bills, but he absorbed what he had to absorb. So, and it lasted for like 22 years. And then, but then the bridge got built, and the city came in and said, hey, your hospital's in the way of where we're going to put the highway. So we got to get rid of this hospital. So they got rid of the hospital, and I assume they paid him for it. I don't know. But who knows in those days what they had to do or could do or whatever, the city and such. But they got rid of it, and then he went and he built another hospital.
Wow. This
time with 60 doctors, though, not by himself. This was Doctors Hospital, and that lasted 35 years. It's a school now, and part of the school one of the good politicians, and I say that, I qualify that. There's not a lot of good ones in my mind anyway, my estimation, but one of the good ones actually remembered what he did, and they named part of the school the Atlas Academy, which was nice. So, yeah, I mean, it makes us feel good. And it was, like I said, he was, he walked to the beat of a different drummer. He really believed that his job was just to take care of people that was sick, period. It didn't come down to whether they could afford to pay for that care. Just give them the care.
Oh, and he was a real doctor.
Yeah, he was a doctor.
Not like these doctors today. You mean a real doctor that isn't paid off?
He would show up for house calls. Patients, after he died, would tell me, say, Teddy, your father, we had sick kids, and we didn't have much money, and we were living in a flat, and flat apartment, cold flat apartment, and we had called up the answering service. My father would make the answering service. There was no, beepers and all. He would make the answering service call him, actually call him and say, the patient called. And so he actually called us back and said, I'll get there. I'm running around doing, but I'll get there. Just leave the door open. He said at midnight, he said, your father walked in the door, and he took care. We had a sick kid there, and he took care of him.
Hell of a man.
And he said, I never forgot that. And there was another story I remember similar, where people down on their luck, they just didn't have much, and they had like 6 kids, and one of them had rheumatic fever. I believe that's what it was, whatever it was. And he came over, took care of the kid, and then they made all the kids sit in the hallway lined up because there was no room. They were all in one room. So they made them all sit outside and they were all sitting there. And he said, we didn't have money to give your father when he came. And he said, don't even think about it. He said, just make me a cup of tea. And I never really got it, but I figured it out a little bit. Obviously, you get older. Sometimes you don't get dumber. Sometimes you actually get a little tiny bit smarter. Smart, at least you try. But I actually figured out why he did that. And he did it quite often. He liked tea, yeah. And it kept him awake a little bit, yeah, because he was always going. But the real reason was so the people wouldn't feel they were getting charity. They wouldn't feel like they weren't giving something back. They wouldn't lose their dignity.
Oh, so like they would give the tea as if
like
they didn't have the money.
Well, he had a sweet
something.
tooth, so he loved cheesecake, piece of cheesecake.
That's really cool.
And I figured out afterwards that's what it was. Because what good are you doing if you're making the people do good and you make the people feel bad? That kind of like
contradicts itself.
Yeah,
right?
It kind of takes away. Yeah. But he knew that these were prideful people.
That's really thoughtful when you think about that.
So
to ask somebody, hey, can you give me some cake or coffee, just so that person feels like, hey, look, I'm giving too.
Yeah,
that's really.
And he said he always, and he told his kids, this is what really got me. A good man, obviously. He told each one of the kids, when my father passed by, as he walked out, one of the kids noticed that he had pajamas underneath his pants. And he asked his father afterwards, why did the doctor have pajamas hanging out from his pants? That was my father. I know it's crazy. I know it's, it's eccentric and all that, sounding at least. But there was a purpose to it, because he got up in the middle of the night and came. And he just drew the pants. And he might keep going. He might keep going for a while. Who knows what else he had. But so he just drew the pants on and got out. And yeah, sometimes, not a lot, but sometimes people would notice Dr. Atlas had pajamas underneath his pants. So he asked the father, and the father had to explain it. And the father explained it the best he could. And then he told all the kids, he made them all gather, and he said, remember this day. Remember that this doctor came here to help us. And we didn't have anything. We just, we needed help. And he came. Remember it. Remember it as you get older. And, so the father was sending a lesson to his kids.
To pass it on.
Yeah, pass it on.
Yeah.
And I always think, like, doing decent work like that, it's not just you get something out of it, that whatever you get out of it yourself, and obviously what it serves, which is the main thing. But you're teaching in your own way. Not in any way to sound condescending. I would never try to do that. I'm not good enough to do that. But just, it is a teaching moment. You're teaching kids kind of like how to live. It's a good way to live. And I just thought that also staying with that theme, that if I started this foundation, it would kind of tell people that if you live a decent life, you remembered. And that's kind of a cool thing. So anyway, for all the things he did, I just thought, again, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but that it was he was worthwhile. What he did was worth remembering and trying to do along those lines. So if a family needs a wheelchair, we get them a wheelchair. Muscular dystrophy don't pay for it. They're not a bad family. I'm not knocking them, but their money goes to other things. People don't realize it goes to research, 6%, 5%. They make a lot of money, but it goes to research and it goes to administration costs. We don't have we have one paid employee.
You mean private jets?
Well, no, I don't know. I would never say that. But,
I'll say it.
And research is important, but in my people, the people we're dealing with, research hasn't touched their life yet. What touched their life is quality of life stuff. That they need a wheelchair. It's that simple. They got a 12-year-old kid who can't walk. He's got muscular. They need a wheelchair. They don't need to be told. I mean, it's nice to hear that, hey, we're getting closer to, in the laboratories to do. Okay,
great. But right now we need a wheelchair.
Can I get a wheelchair?
Yeah.
I need a handicap ramp. So we do that. And those things aren't covered, believe it or not, by insurance.
So if you're paralyzed and you need a wheelchair.
They don't consider it a medical thing, like the medicine, this, that, but those things like wheelchair ramps, they're not considered that. And again, some of these, like whether it's March of Dimes, and I'm not knocking them, they're great organizations, but if you check into them, 4%, 3%, 5%, 6%, whatever, goes to research. And the rest, administrative, miscellaneous, whatever it is. But I can say that other than one paid, and she's underpaid, one paid employee,
she's underpaid.
Everything goes to the cases. Everything.
Yeah.
It goes out. I buy my own table to the dinner every year, that we have a big foundation dinner, or golf outing. I don't play golf, but I buy a foursome, and I drive around in a cart like an idiot.
There's Teddy in the cart.
Basically,
where is he?
I can't play, but I drive around the cart. Hey, thank you for coming. But what we do is we take care of people that fall through the cracks. The things I just said. A family might have a kid who got surgery. And the surgery could cost, and I'm going to arbitrary number, but it could cost $300,000. Insurance covered it. But guess what they don't cover? The cancer medication after the insurance, if it was cancer, that they need to take, that's $1,200 a month. And this is a mom living in a project. She can't pay $1,200 a month for that. So we'll step in, we'll pay for it in those kind of cases. Sometimes we'll even pay for small surgeries, like, I shouldn't say everything is big, but 15, 20, like if it has to be done and they can't. Why? Now people say, Teddy, why would you have to? Well, sometimes it's a specialized surgery. And certain doctors in those fields, well, they don't take any insurance. They just don't. And so either you got the money or you don't. So if they need a specialized surgery and they can't get it anywhere else, then we'll be the last stop. And we'll try to get that done, and we do get it done. And even chemotherapy, every once in a while you hear like someone will come to a parent or come to us and say, this particular drug is not covered by our insurance on the chemo. Okay, let's see. And that's what we take care of. Sometimes a family needs to be flown out of state to find the treatment. We're in New York, you think everything's there. But sometimes there's a better medical setup for that kid, for that particular case somewhere else. And if it's the case, they got to go somewhere else. We'll fly them, and put them in a hotel. And hopefully that the family will find out they're eligible for that program. And, we at least, we're a bridge through a gap. We're nothing special. We're no better, no worse than anyone else out there. But we do this to remember this guy, and we do it in the way he did it, direct. The thing that I said from the beginning when we do it is the same thing. We're not going to ask for a cup of tea, but we're not going to make you go through too much jumping through hoops in the rigmarole of a stack this big of forms. We legitimize it quick, because it usually is quick. Legitimate, bang, make a call to the doctor, whatever it is, boom, next day, here it is. And because, again, just because I didn't think of it, but my father taught me that you don't make people lose more than they lost already. They already lost something. They're coming to you. They don't want to come to you. They really don't. They'd rather go somewhere else. They'd do something else, be in the park, whatever, be at a ball game. But if they come to you, don't make them lose their dignity. It's already tough. So we do that kind of stuff, and we also do social programs. We'll go into these at-risk schools. There's a lot of problems out there. I'm not telling you nothing you don't know. And listen, I'm not afraid to say what it is. I wasn't born with this nose, okay? I didn't move my head enough sometimes. And so I'm not afraid. If I think I'm right, I'm going to freaking say it.
People, as you should, right?
People don't like it. Hey.
But as a human, that's how it should be.
I think so. So we go into these at-risk schools. Families making less than 35. In our area is called Title I schools. The way that they figure that out is that falls into the category by families making less than $35,000 a year, poverty, problems. But here's the biggest thing, and the elephant in the room sometimes. And again, I'm there, so I'm gonna say it. No fathers. I say it again. You didn't hear me? No fathers.
I say it all the time.
Okay, that's the problem. You want the problem in this country? You want to solve it overnight? Okay, whether it's a father, whether it's a mother, whether it's a grandmother, anyone could be a father. I'm telling. It could be a neighbor. I don't care who it is, but no father. You get what I'm saying? No father. Nobody leading. Nobody saying, "Hey, you can't do that."
Alpha. You need the alpha.
Yeah.
In your
Nobody
life.
say you can't do that. Hey, son, you did wrong. But you know what? Straighten out. Next week we're going to a Yankee game. Whatever. But showing that they care, giving direction, giving lessons, just guidance, and that's the problem in this country right now. That you look at it, if there's nobody at home, whether it's that great grandmother, whether it's the mother who's battling all by herself, whoever it is, the aunt, whoever. But if that's not there, we got problems, and that's where the problems are. And that's it. I'm sorry. And so I go into the schools and I tell them, say, okay, here we are. Get right to the point, because these kids, it's tough. These kids, they can't read. It's unbelievable. But they're involved. They see violence every day, and they're angry. They're just angry. Like I don't even know if they could explain their anger, except it's there. And so I get right to the point. I understand what I'm dealing with. I get right to the point. I say, listen, you do something for me, I do something for you. Bang. Because they understand that. Because that's what it is. That's what it is in the street. Yeah, you ain't getting nothing free. So they're right away. They're a little attentive. Okay, maybe this guy going to say something other than the typical BS, that we hear, and I'm falling asleep, and they're falling asleep as the guy. So I say, you start taking, and I know this is going to, again, it's going to sound whatever. I don't care. I know in my heart what it is and where it's going. I don't care if they get A's or B's. I care about them caring. Find a way to get them to care about what? About themselves. That's the problem. People say, oh, they don't care about you. They'll go in there and punch someone in the face because they don't care about other people. No. They don't care about themselves. So there's no reason to care how they act with someone else. Do you get it? I have a friend that he's a guy that he didn't go to school. He grew up on the street, but he's just one of the smartest guys I ever met. And he always says to me, in that street sort of way, he says, hey, pal, it's not complicated. People make it complicated. It's not complicated. People make it complicated. Hey, pal, it's not complicated. That's what it is. Get the person to care about themselves, they care about others, and they care about society. And so we go in and say, okay, you start taking ownership today over your behavior. Start caring about who you are. how you act, how you walk down the hall, what you look like, how you talk to people, what you do, what you don't do. Start making choices of that. Yeah, we know you have problems. I'm not disputing. Everyone's got problems. But you got one thing. You got a power. And I'm going to tell you what that power is. The power to make a choice of how you're going to behave today.
This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all type of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top. This episode is brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.
That's yours. Nobody can take that away. I don't care the poverty level. I don't care no father. No, nobody can take that. You have the ability to make a choice now, every freaking day, as long as you're bringing air into your lungs, of how you're going to act, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. It's your choice. It's no one else's. You could blame everything. I can't stop that, but it's your choice. I'm asking you. I'm putting it out there as an offer. You start making better choices of who you are, how you act, how you behave. Your teachers will look at you over the next marking period, and they'll put you on a list. And I'm coming back. I'm dropping off 200 tickets to a Yankee game, to a Mets game, to a Knicks game, to a Nets game, whatever the season is, and going to supply the buses. You're going to a game. Bang.
That's awesome.
I'm out of here.
I bet you they listened.
You know what? A lot of them do.
Yeah.
A lot of them do. Just for that reason.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, though, as long as you get them to listen, right? And if you get them in that routine, if you get them in that regimen.
Yeah. I mean, and then they start liking it.
Yeah.
I remember a commercial years ago with the cereal, and they said, you eat it. I don't like that. You eat it. Well, give it to Mikey. See if Mike... hey, Mikey likes it. Hey, that must be okay. Mikey likes it. You know...
Now Joey likes it. Now Jimmy likes it. Yeah,
they might start liking it, and it might just start to catch on.
And that's what we need. You know, you got all this bullying shit. You got the trophy shit with everybody. So when you have it set up like that, where everybody's getting a trophy for everything, so everybody feels comfortable. If you discipline your child or you say something to somebody, if you say, hey, man, you know, you're getting fat. Why don't you get on the treadmill? Maybe that's a compliment in a way like, hey, you're my buddy. I don't want you to have a heart attack at 50.
How about use the word, maybe that's called, it's a 4-letter word, but it's a right one. Care.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's showing a little care.
Like, get on the treadmill so you don't die.
Maybe when you don't say that, you're not showing care. How about we flip it around in this country right now? We flip it around. You people out there that say, oh, you can't say that. You're insulting. You're hurting someone. You're not being sensitive to where they come from, to this, to that. Maybe you're the ones who don't care. Maybe we're the ones that care by saying it.
Exactly, because we wouldn't be saying it if we didn't care. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. Well,
even if you hate the fucking guy, it doesn't matter. If you say something to him, you care.
We got other things we could be doing. I mean, could even go get a latte. I mean, there's more important things than getting a latte. But we could be. There's a lot of things we could be.
Yeah,
we could be doing, right? That, you know, go to the gym, do this, do that, go to work, But we don't have to be taking the time to say, hey, buddy, you got to take care of yourself. Yeah. You know, it's not good. You might get away with it now, but when you get older, high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, God forbid. But those things do kind of have a way of following this kind of stuff. So,
you bring up the dad point, and I totally 100% agree with you. I coach youth sports, but I see a lot of kids coming in football, and they don't have dads. And, one story I remember a couple of years ago, a kid came, and he was a good football player. Very violent, but in a way where it wasn't good. He would go off sides. He would be ripping guys down by the face mask. So he's trying to corral this energy and take it and be like, don't do that, but do this with it. And I'll never forget, his dad was supposed to come to our game. His dad was in jail. His dad was just getting out of jail. He's so excited. You could see this glow in this kid.
How old? I'm just
12 years old.
Oh, wow.
You could see this glow in this kid. And he's waiting, looking for his dad, looking for his dad. And his dad never came. And just just soaked out of him. And just being a coach, it's just getting into their heads that they matter, that, giving them structure. Because I think any kid longs for structure. They do. They want structure in their lives. And if you can give them that structure, I mean, but you're right. The dad thing, when he said that, I say that all the time. I said, the problem we have is you need in a family, in my opinion, you need an alpha. You need the male. It's great. Mom does her thing. Mom's there to hug and kiss and do all that type of stuff. But you need a dad to say, you know what? You fucked up. You did something wrong. And maybe get your ass beat once or twice.
And it comes back to that same thing. You're so right. But it comes back to somebody caring. These kids, they have whatever they don't have in an academic intelligence,
Yeah.
they have an innate intelligence. They sense it. They get it. They know the BS. They have. I always say these guys have like BS barometers. They really do. They know, and they know when somebody cares, and that just might ignite. You need a little spark to start a flame. That might be just the spark you need to get them to say, "Hey, maybe I should care." I mean, really, that all you need is a spark sometimes. I don't want to get out there and talk about all these old cliches and get too dramatic with that stuff, but there's truth to it.
I think the old cliches need to come back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
what do you think about the social media, Teddy? All this technology. I mean, that's taking people out of the gym. That's taking people away from working. And now when you're handing out checks and everything, so when you go and you talk to these kids, knowing that, they're addicted, they can't wait to pick up this thing, how do you get them away from that? Be like, why don't you take a little bit of time? That phone ain't going to do much for you in 10 years from now. You're still going to be sitting on the couch in that same phone, and hopefully you got a place to live. How do you handle that?
All these things, I think, are handleable in the same lane, in the same way, as just buying their trust. I mean, without that, none of these things, they're just not going to listen to anything until you buy into their trust a little bit. And that starts with showing them that you're actually legitimately here for a legitimate reason, that you like to see them do better. Yeah. You have some concern about people in general and about them in particular right now. And I really think that's where it starts, because once you get that entry point of trust, then you can go to these places. But you can't just go to these places, because then it's just somebody else just, saying stuff.
It's the next guy saying the same
It's just noise.
Right.
I hate to say that, but it's noise. It's noise. And they block out noise. That's why they wear these things,
Yeah,
Yeah, the Beats, right?
Yeah, Beats are AirPods with noise cancellation. So
yeah.
you think they're there, but they're not there.
No, they're not there. They're not there. We got to get them to be there. And the only way you're going to get them to be there, and that's a great point you brought up, and I'm glad you did, is to start in that area. Not particularly and specifically with, hey, you shouldn't be on a phone. You shouldn't be wasting your time, on these games and on this and on
Yeah,
something.
you say that. You lost them right then and there.
You're not getting anywhere. It's done.
Yeah.
This boom.
Yeah, but they're in. They're looking for them.
Exactly. It's got to be.
You got to show that you care first.
I think that's where it starts.
That's
the booster shot.
That's
the other thing too is like you look at schools, and you brought up schools, and this is not a knock to teachers in one bit, but you have some teachers out there that just give up on kids, and you have to find every kid learns differently or does stuff differently, and just because that kid doesn't want to learn the way that you teach or things that you gotta. It's hard. Listen, they don't get paid enough sometimes, these teachers, but you got to find a way for some of these kids, because they just get lost. And then they give up. They're done. It's just, I think even with a good coach, a good teacher finds a way with that project child, if you want to call it that they find a way to make it work.
If you want to be a lion tamer, I know I'm crazy, but if you want to be a lion tamer, right? You go in there, and hopefully it's a little domesticated, the lion, right? But
I hope so,
right?
man.
But you go in there with a chair, right? Whatever.
A chair?
Well, a chair and a whip. No, that's what I used to remember seeing the lion tamers. They had the chair. They had the, in other words, they had tools. They had something to help them get the job done, right? I'm not equating kids into lions, but it's tough out there for the teachers nowadays. What I am equating and what I am saying directly, using that analogy to get there, is that we've taken away the tools from the teachers to get their job done. I think it starts there, just like it starts with care. How do you do this? Great question. You got to show you guys. Well, how do you get the teachers to, be more involved and, be more committed in the ways that a teacher automatically used to be committed, in the way that you just said, that just ain't waiting for 3 o'clock or 2:30 or whatever time it is nowadays for the bell to ring so they could get the heck out of there. You have to give them back the abilities to be a teacher. We took those abilities away from them. I really think that's the answer. Or that's where it starts. We took those. Who would want to be a teacher? Who would want to be a policeman today? We're talking straight stuff here. You got to go all the way with it. Really, and important stuff, strong stuff. But who wants to be those jobs when you've taken those people's abilities to be that away? Listen, I know that there's some idiot cops out there, but there's so many good ones. Yeah. And without them, we got a freaking problem. And I think we're seeing that. We got a problem. Yeah, do you got to make sure you got the good ones and do whatever you got to do? Yeah. I'm never going to dispute that. 100%. Same thing with teachers. Not everybody should be a teacher. not everyone. Some people, it's like they can't take it. They can't handle that.
Did you see the one teacher last week, or did you see that? So I forget what state it was, but a male teacher came in with like rubber boobs out to here, like tied around, boobs out to here. And this was an English teacher. And we're like terrible in it. We used to be like number 1 in reading. I think we're 16, 17, 18.
Look, again,
but
there has to be some parameters.
So
there has to be some parameters to anything you do. Something that someone's got to be able to say, that's not exactly right.
Yeah.
So someone's got to be allowed. It's like we took away. It's like we made everything okay. Everything's not okay. I got news for you. I'm sorry. And I'm not taking away your ability, to have a vision, your ability to be creative, your ability to be different. I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to do that. Your ability or for me to say, I don't understand where you come from. Okay. But there are certain things that there are guardrails up on a road for a reason. Because if you go off the road, you might crash into something. The guardrails are there for a reason. And there used to be guardrails in our society for a reason. For a reason. Again, I'm not saying that you can't expand the road a little bit as we move down the road, if you will, right? I'm not saying that. Right. You can't widen it and make it 4 lanes instead of 2 lanes. All right, but there's still got to be guardrails. There's still got to be ability to say, nah, that's not exactly good.
Right, like do whatever you want, but there's certain things that if you choose to do A, B, or C,
it doesn't fit into this.
Right.
It doesn't fit.
It's okay if you
you
want to do that, but it doesn't
Yeah,
fit in.
you want to go do that and do it on wherever, somewhere, hanging out, whatever, wherever it is, with your group, fine. Nobody's stopping you. But to go into a classroom where it's going to influence what your job is, it's not about, here's the thing, I think that I just realized. It's not about you, it's about them. That's what we forget sometimes.
That's what
it's not about, in other words, that person you just described obviously was about her, right? That person. But it's supposed to be about the kids. It's supposed to be about the job. It's supposed to be about what these kids are going to take from that. And what you're supposed to give them. You're supposed to give them education, whatever that particular field is. So it's like we start to lose track of, it's not always about us. Like it can be about us, like you just said. If you're at home in your own environment and whatever you're doing with your circle of friends, with your social, situation, that's you. But if you have a job, there are certain parameters to that job. There are certain qualifications to that job. There are certain responsibilities. And at the end of the day, you're trying to get at certain results. And I don't know that helps you get the results to better somebody in an educational way that you are within a school system, academic system. So I think we just got a little crazy. I think when you say everything's okay, I know I'm being too simple right now, but when you say everything's okay, everything's not okay. I mean, you want to live in a flop house? No, I mean a flop house. A flop house is basically you flop. You come in, you flop. Okay, you tie it and fall down. I've done it.
Your house to house.
Yeah. And you flop. But if you're going to start flopping and saying, okay, it's okay to go to the bathroom right there, instead of finding a proper facility, that's not okay. Oh, but you got to allow it because you got to understand. Understand what? Understand where they came from, that, a toilet wasn't always available. Really, it gets that because people defend everything. Okay, but there is a toilet available, actually. And so let's not start to say everything's okay. Let's not say it's okay to defecate there. It's okay to urinate there. No, it's not.
Well, I always say you need consequences for actions too. A kid I always use this when we do it.
Yeah.
A kid puts his hand on a hot stove. He burns his hand. In his head, he sees the stove again. He's like, I'm probably not going to put my hand there again because I may get burned again. But if you have no consequences for actions and things that are going on, why would people stop doing stuff that's going on, where they're stealing stuff and they're not getting, some time or something, not even, just consequences for their actions? If there's no consequences, it's just
100%. And I wouldn't even go as deep as consequences, and you're 100% right. But I would just say direction. I would just say rules. I would just say attitude. I would just say permissible. That those things shouldn't be put out there where people even think it's permissible. That's what I would say before you even get to the consequences. Where I remember when I was a kid, they had me in some school because I wasn't great, and these I won't even get into it, but the people that were running the school would put your hand there and crack me with a ruler. Now that wasn't good. That wasn't good. But I do remember.
Well, I bet you didn't do
I didn't do that again. And not
the
there.
point.
Not there.
Not there.
No, not there. I'll be honest. But I'm not saying that we got to take the rulers out and start cracking knuckles again.
I don't know, man. I think we might need to now to shape things back up.
Well, things have gotten out of control. But what I am saying, to your point, is that before you even get to the consequence point where you start to who figures out what the consequences should be. This should be that. Just stop making it okay. Just stop the the air, the what you're putting out in the air, that it's okay, that everything's okay, that there is no responsibility in your conduct in this world. There is no connection to right and wrong. There is. We shouldn't forget that. And again, I'm not taking away anybody's ability to have a vision and to do things differently, their own way, to seek their own way. I'm not taking that away at all. I want that. But there has to be some kind of
guardrails. I like how you said that, guardrails. People can be whatever they want to be, but you got to have those guardrails. Otherwise, it just goes off the lane. You're driving off the bridge.
I think we've driven off the bridge.
I think we have too.
I hate to say it.
And now, if we want to donate and help out, we go up to donations, click there, and we'll have this.
Thank you for doing it.
Oh, sure, absolutely. We'll have this in the description, and why your contribution matters, the programs. Teddy, I know you guys do scholarships too. I've seen some of that.
We do scholarships.
Yeah, look at all the stuff there. So, if you heard what Teddy just said, I mean, if you want the country better, every dollar counts, right, Teddy?
It sure does. I'll tell you, I'll go even further. Every quarter counts.
It does.
I mean, really,
it really does.
There's so many people that could give a quarter.
Yeah.
Or, whatever it is. But it adds up. Again, I'm being cliche-ish, but it's not meant to be. It's just the truth. And it gets us to where we want to get. It gets the job done, where we can help more people. I mean, we're right now.
Yeah, those are your dinners, huh?
Yeah.
Teddy dinner, yeah. Phew.
We've been fortunate because we've been blessed with good people that believe in what we do. Thank you. They see what we do. They see where the money goes. They feel it. They're in the room. They hear the testimonials. And so these people, these celebrities, they come out and they help us raise money because they believe in it. And I appreciate the hell out of everybody that does that. And we're blessed that we get that help. Right now, we just finished investing a few months ago in a mobile unit, a mobile van. I'd like to buy one, but it's outside our area right now. Budget. I don't have a budget, but if I did, it's probably outside it. We just do what we got to do until we run into a wall. And so that's kind of the budget. People say, Teddy, what's your budget? I say, well, when someone tells me no, when the bank tells me you got no more money in there, that's my budget. Like, yeah. So we had a mobile unit that we had a grant and we put towards it, and we went into the neighborhoods that are having a lot of problems. And it's a mental health mobile unit. And they went in there for kids that are suicidal, just all this stuff. So a lot of stuff related to COVID. I got news for you. COVID's terrible, and it was terrible what happened and everything else. But my people, the people we're helping, they were having problems before COVID. See, here's a little news item for you out there, people. Okay? COVID didn't cause everything. The people I'm dealing with are people that we love, that we're trying to help. They were having problems way before COVID. And after COVID, they continue because it is what it is. And so we go into these neighborhoods, and it got exasperated. There's no doubt about it. It got worse. And so whether it's suicidal, whether it's depression, which is linked to that, obviously, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's whatever the problems, myriad of things. We go in there with the mobile unit, and with the mobile unit, we have a psychiatrist, psychologist, counselors, and they talk to the people. And we give out stress items to help with relieve stress, whatever. And so we... I could probably wouldn't have to worry about the budget. Half of the stress item I could just take from my grandchildren, and because they're little things that they're squeezing and all that. That's part of what we're buying. I say, let me just get some of those. They're not using them no more. That would obviously alleviate some of our pressure a little bit. But in all seriousness, we went into the neighborhoods, and the people they reacted in a unbelievable way, and they want us to continue to come there if we can. So I want to be able to get to a point where we can do it instead of in spots. It was only spot. I'm not going to tell a tale and say, oh, we're there. No, we were only there for a couple months. Is it enough? No, it's not enough. But it was enough to find out what more had to be done. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was the biggest part of it. And so now we've kind of adopted a school. I'm not going to name the school, but it's rated as the worst school in New York City. And violence. A lot of it, the kids aren't reading right. The whole list,
9.
the whole 9. But violence. But this is all I got to tell you when I'm describing this school. And I wish I didn't have to tell this story. We go in there. We have a mentoring program, and we've been going in there now for a while. And we mentor these kids and bringing in the people I just described, the counselor, but it costs money. And 3 of the kids that we're mentoring, the young kids, of course, they've seen their mother killed by their father. Okay, I don't think I have to go any further to explain what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
And so we're in difficult, treacherous waters. Yeah, I'm not afraid to use that word, treacherous water, because if we don't do it right, it can. I mean, where are these kids going? I mean, really, I don't have to draw the picture. I think people can figure it out, connect the dots.
Picture's already drawn.
Yeah,
right?
where are they going? So it's really kind of, it's that important and scary. And so we're doing that. So we got to keep doing more because we got to pick up other schools. That ain't the only school that. See, here's the thing that really got me, that educated me a little bit. We'll go and we'll help. Say, I'll just use an arbitrary number. Say we'll help a couple hundred kids, right? 200-300 kids there, and we say, oh man, we did we did a good thing. We did this, we did that, or it could be even less. And all of a sudden, when you leave there, if you're being honest with yourself and you have half a brain in your head, you start to say, wait a minute. For every 200 of them, there's another 2,000, 20,000. Then it gets scary. Wow, we can't fool ourselves to thinking that this is the whole
shebang.
Problem here. This is the tip of the iceberg. It's just telling us that this problem exists, and it exists in a large way in our society, larger than most people will ever want to know. Because who would want to know that? I mean, really, you'd rather put something else on your TV. You get tired even listening to the news.
Yeah, you just change it because you've had enough.
Yeah, you change the channel.
Just like this.
And so it's tough out there. So.
But it's a great thing that you're doing it. You have a voice. You're recognizable.
And we're doing a small bit.
But it's how it is. Small steps at a time. And then maybe somebody else sees you doing it, and then they do it in California. I mean, it could just...
And there are people doing it.
It could just
and we're
blow
not
up
the only
all
ones
over.
doing it. There's a lot of good people out there doing it.
If a lot of this kind of stuff happens like this, this is the only way I could see things changing. The only way. I
mean, that and making it illegal, and I'm tongue in cheek here. I get that Irish sense of humor. I have Irish from a dark sense of humor, whatever. But my mother said, don't lose it, otherwise you'll be crying all the time. And so that'll just make it illegal to have politicians. because maybe we could figure out better if it wasn't like so-called politician. There's good ones, don't get me wrong, but how about just get more leaders? Don't even use that word. More. How about just get more, people that have common sense, and
right, I know. And I agree with you.
And just say, hey,
what are you doing?
Let's roll my sleeves up here. Here's the problem. Let's look at it, and let's not be controlled by politics. That's not be controlled by anything other than what the problem tells us we got to do. How's that?
The one I love is how to keep kids out of trouble, right? How do you keep them out of trouble? Well, when you take away after school care programs where they went to play basketball, to play chess, to do whatever it was. When you take that away, you can find a good way to get a kid in trouble because he has nothing else to do, so he's gonna find trouble. And you gotta they take the programs away, and you're like, what are we doing? And then they take that money, and you'll find out, oh, they used it for an improvement to this area where no one goes to, or
a solar panel.
Yeah, a solar panel project that no one.
That takes 30 years to pay back.
Yeah.
I got to look at the money sometimes along that path. We do need money from politicians, funding. And we got a couple that give us, not enough, but some good ones. And we're blessed and very grateful. But I remember, I don't know how to even go on the internet. I don't think I've ever been on. I don't know if I see it sometimes, but it's basically a rumor to me that there's a thing called the internet. I am a caveman. I mean, I had a flip phone until a couple of years ago, and I got forced to get one of these good phones, smartphones, whatever they are. I had forced because I was going with ESPN to Australia to do a Pacquiao fight, and I actually went into a store like an idiot, and one of these AT&T, whatever those stores are, and I went in there and said, hey, buddy, young kid, I said, fix this so I can go to Australia. I really thought that he could fix it, like he could put a thing in. Everyone, chips do everything, right? Everything, there's a chip for everything. So I figured he put it in, I'm good. So it turned out he was a little young, wise guy, but a good kid, but a boxing fan. And he goes, Teddy, he goes, I might be able to do Yonkers, but not Australia. I said, oh, you're a wise guy, huh? He goes, no, Teddy, I'm just kidding. He goes, there is nothing. You got to get one of these. $800, it's yours, and that's the only thing that's going to work, and I got it. And I was afraid I wouldn't learn, but people helped me, and I am a caveman, and I resist that kind of technology. But, it's obviously you have no choice.
Yeah, you have no choice. Especially if you have any type of business, you have to,
Yeah, and there was something I was going to take that to, but I'm sure it'll come to me. That's part of what's that? The senior moment.
Yeah,
that's the nice way of calling it. when you're losing the marbles. Are you allowed to
say that?
Is that the nice way?
I don't know if you're allowed to say that. I know you can't say blindsided now.
Well, I'm having a senior moment. And if I'm not allowed to say it, it's because I had a senior moment.
Yeah.
So that excuses me. Instead of just saying, yeah, I'm losing my marbles, that's the nicer way for me to handle it.
You know what I found so interesting when I was reading about you? Your dad's a doctor, right? He's Jewish. Your mom, a contestant for Miss Pageant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Miss America, right?
Oh, yeah.
And guess who wins that battle? Mom's Irish Catholic.
Oh, the mom.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Irish Catholic. You didn't have to tell me if I swore an Irish Catholic.
He's Irish.
Yeah, we were brought up Catholic.
Yeah.
But my father, the funny thing about it, my father didn't have time for religion. His religion was what he was doing, quite frankly. I think that's a good religion.
Yeah.
Just living right and taking care of people, doing what you can do and should do when you can do it. And trying to live the right life. So that was his religion. He loved the Jewish faith, but he wasn't religious, and he didn't pretend to be. He wasn't going to synagogue. He wasn't doing any of that stuff. So he said he let my mom raise us Catholic, which, because she was going to be involved with that. And had time for that, where he didn't. He was being a doctor. So, yeah, but he always liked the Catholic. He liked it. He said it was pretty cool. But and they were so different. There was, oh my goodness. But opposites do attract.
Yeah.
It's true.
Now, as you're growing up, and you get in a street fight, why do you think you were a little bit rebellious early on?
Well, again, I'm careful saying this because it's like, poor him, the doctor's son. I was a doctor's son.
I see it a lot, though.
You know what I mean? But, yeah, and I think if I learned anything, you don't have to be poor to be missing something. That's my logic. And it's not an excuse. But I wanted my father. I was talking about fathers pretty strongly, passionately, early. It connects to me. even this doctor's son, you need a father. And my mother was great, but he was gone all the time. I mean, he was doing house calls. He was in his office. He didn't have office hours. Yeah, there was a thing up on the wall that said like from 1 o'clock to 5:30. Forget about it. Throw it away. It was stupid to have it up there.
Might as well just take it down and put 24/7, right?
Because until the last patient left, he was there.
Yeah.
It was that simple.
Yeah.
And so there was no dinners with pop and all, and no little league and all. And listen, I'm not feeling sorry. Please don't take it the wrong way. I'm grateful for what I have, and I was blessed. But you want your father around. And as a kid, the way I figured, the way it went into me, was that the people he was around had problems. And I finally figured out when I got older. I didn't have any clue when I was young to articulate it the way I can a little bit now. Still like a caveman, but a little bit. I wanted him around. So I equated it, and I'm going back to 8, 9, 10, and then when I got older, that's where it started to come together, to crystallize. But when I was 8, 9, 10, I went on house calls with him. I forced my way. Sometimes I had to fight with him. And I went on house calls with him. That's the only way I could be with him. And when the phone rang in the middle of the night, the answering service called him the middle of the night. The guy, and he was putting the pants over the pajamas and walking down the steps. Guess who was there?
You.
Yeah, I was there. I was waiting.
Yeah.
And he would say, get back in bed.
Yeah.
Get back in bed. What are you doing? I said, what are you doing? Come on, get in bed. I want to go with you. And finally, when it was earlier, I got to go sometimes, a lot. And so, for this kid, as I got older, and then I became 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, started getting to that stupid age, it's not, where it is a little more complicated, and you do screw things up. I started to say, hey, the only people that get this guy is people that are messed up, people that are hurt, people that are fractured, people that are whatever. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get fractured. I'm going to get messed up. And I get them. I know did I articulate? No. Did I plan? No. Then I'd really be insane. But it happened. I figured it out. It happened. It's no excuse. I made my choice. But all of a sudden I started going and gravitating to places where, there was
violence.
I could get hurt.
Yeah.
Where I could get hurt, hanging out with them. And they were great people. I loved them, and they became my friends, and they became my family, and kind of replaced maybe a little something, whatever. I get it where these kids get into the gangs. I get it. Do I agree? No, of course not. It's bad. But I get the allure. I get the bait. I see what it is. They're missing what I was missing, but in a worse way. With the poverty, with everything else, with the violence and all that. I didn't have all that. But it was enough for me to gravitate that way. Imagine what it is for them.
For them, with way worse.
With all these things. So, again, you don't have to be poor to miss stuff, to be without stuff, or in poverty. Poverty can be equated in a lot of ways. And so I started getting, unfortunately, hanging out and getting in trouble, and and to get him, to get his attention. And I finally got it.
That's understandable.
But it was wrong. And I finally got, Cus D'Amato one time said to me, we were talking about world champions, and this guy became a world champion in his late 30s. And I said, wow, that was late. It's a shame. He goes, shame? What are you talking about, Teddy? He goes, he became a world champion. Doesn't matter when it is, as long as you get there. It took me a minute, but I got there. I got to a decent place. Thank God. And thanks to my father, my mother, everything. And, despite my plans, my ill-advised, stupid plans. But everyone has their own journey. Again, it sounds cliche-ish, metaphoric and all that. But it's true. Everyone's got their own journey. you know, and hopefully it gets you to the right. But everyone does have their own journey, and sometimes you don't understand it at first. Saying, "Oh man, this is." No, stay on it. Make the right turns every once in a while, you know, and figure it out. But it's for a purpose. It is for a purpose to get you somewhere, and to make sure you're a certain way when you get there. That's a big part of it too. If you get somewhere and you have no luggage to carry for stuff,
what good are you?
You're naked.
Yeah.
You got to pick up those clothing on your way. You got to pick up that stuff that you're gonna need when you get there. You know, the wool hat. You know, because it gets cold. Whatever. So sometimes that journey makes you pick up the things you need to kind of get there and stay there.
Well, in your journey, take me through this, because I had to look at this twice. You got in a street fight and you had to get 400 stitches, 200 inside, 200 outside.
Yeah, right here.
With a switchblade or 007?
No,
I think,
007.
.3
Yeah.
knife.
Back in the day in our neighborhood, 007 it was a cheap knife. It was a dangerous, any knife's dangerous, but it had a wooden thing to it and you could flick it. So everybody kind of got into where, they
Like
could.
something like that.
Yeah.
Scroll down a little bit. I think there was a better one. I don't know. I was looking for a 007 knife.
Yeah.
Like that, right? Something like that one?
Yeah, where you could flick it out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a switchblade. And you just had to do that motion with your wrist and, you know.
What was the fight over?
Me and a friend, kid that grew up in the area where I gravitated to in the projects, and he had a bunch of brothers, and they're all dead now, from the streets, from either AIDS, drug overdose, or whatever.
The environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was my friend, and we were driving in that neighborhood in Stapleton, and tough area. All areas could be tough, and we weren't looking to avoid trouble. We had a bad attitude. I think, and we're driving, and all of a sudden we get cut off in that neighborhood.
Oh boy.
And so we cut them off. The only thing was them was 5.
Problem, maybe.
You know, if you're going to cut someone off,
Numbers.
being smart enough to real quick do that's where being good with numbers comes in handy. 5, that not cut them off.
Bad calculation on that one, huh?
So it was that night and whatever. And so we got out to, obviously, not to check their insurance, right? And then we fighting, but they weren't fighting again. Without sounding stupid, but we were fighting. I'm fighting, and they're fighting. I got hit with a blackjack. My jaw was out here, but I had a good chin, and I pulled the guy in close to me because it got me cobwebbed, and pulled him in. Was able to do what I had to do. And knew enough to get him close to me. He couldn't do anything, but then around me, was stuff happening, and so I was able to catch this guy something good, deal with that, and all of a sudden, I ain't gonna win, and I probably got to 2 of them, in a little bit of a way, but I remember looking, as many years as it's been now, because I was only like 17, 18, whatever, 17, 18. And I remember looking, and I saw him, and we're on the street, so I know what we're dealing with. I saw him go in his pocket. That ain't good. And so you got a choice. And I know it sounds like it's taking longer, but it's a split-second choice, like, either you get away or you get in close. I tried to get in close, and I was just a little late, and it was weird because a lot of my friends had the 007, so it's the stupidest thing, but I'm like, that's a 007. and like, you know, and boom.
Just
and
like that.
you know, and that was it. So, and they said afterwards, another less than a quarter of an inch, it hits my jugular. And, you know, we're not having this conversation here today. But I got scarred the rest of my life. And, you know, I learned a lot. I mean, if you can learn from such bad things and stupid things that I put myself in.
How long does that take to heal?
Well, a long time.
Like when you get 400 stitches.
200 inside 200. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of stitches.
I was in the hospital for like 8 days, 9 days. So, but that's a pretty long
tough.
time. Yeah. And then you get out. It takes a while.
This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet, Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy.
Can't have a street fight for 4 months.
I was going to say, you must have had to take some time off.
You know, you got to take a little time off.
Or you got to sit in the car on this one, or on the bike, or whatever.
You know, once an idiot, always an idiot, until you become not such an idiot. And finally got to that neighborhood. But
did that turn your life around then?
No.
No. What was it that turned your life around where you had enough and
I'll tell
you got into the ring?
I'll tell you, I was boxing already. I'll tell you what that kind of led me to. I learned some things about human nature. I know it's to help me later on as a trainer, believe it or not. Obviously, I was already a fighter. I was boxing in the PAL. But, and then I got wayward. But, yeah, I was fighting in the street. I used to go and fight guys. Like, we would just go set up and I'd go whatever the thing was and whatever the beef was and meet them and fight, and you know, and I had a little edge because I was a bit of a fighter, boxer, you know. So, you know, you're a boxer, so you have an edge, you know. I mean, these guys can't fight. You know, they throw something like this and you bang, you hit them a right hand, you know, or you can even weave it or whatever. Or you know, whatever. So, and you're used to that environment of the fear and everything. You can cope with it better, and that's obviously a plus in that area. So, but that guy didn't have to take the knife and cut me. They were winning, they were gonna win, but he still did. Why? Because of fear. Because he was so scared that he didn't even think beyond it, that obviously you could go to jail, kill me, which you're not even thinking, but that it's not necessary. Like, you didn't have to do that, but the fear overwhelms some people. And I think that's in out there in the world, that the fear, whatever you want to, some people they're not comfortable with the word fear. So you want to call it, you know, you're scared. You want to call it you're nervous. You want to call it anxiety. You want to, you know, sometimes before a game, butterflies. But it's fear. I mean, all those things are cousins to one thing, fear. It's there. And some people learn to cope with it and control it better than others. And when you don't control it, it can take you to all kinds of devastating places. And it took this guy to trying to kill me. And I, as a trainer later on, I understood I could know all the X's and O's in the world. And I did. And be a really good control range, move your head after your last punch, inside fighting, you know, everything. You know, being able to counter punch. I could get angles. I could know all that stuff and be able to teach it to somebody, but it didn't mean diddly squat if I didn't understand about this, about where they were, the environment, where you're afraid. So they can't do that if they're afraid. You got to get them adapted to that. You got to get them through that. You got to get them strong in that area. You got to bring them up to speed in that area. You got to make sure they're up to speed in that area before you teach how to throw a jab and cover fast and all that stuff. So it helped me in those kind of ways. And it reminded me of how strong people can be and how weak they can be at the same time. What true strength and weakness truly was. That was truly weakness. And on the street, it's like strength. Like, the guy took
Like
somebody.
Yeah.
No, it's actually weakness. And I started to figure stuff out. And at the end of the day, it got me, I might as well finish the story. It got my father because I remember I'm in the hospital. It was the closest hospital there. It was a civil service hospital. So it wasn't but it was the closest one. And I'm in the hospital and I got the thing, the curtain all the way around me and I'm out of it, but as much as I'm out of it, I'm waiting for one person to show up. And I remember I'm just there and I got stuff in me, IVs and all that. And all of a sudden, I remember the curtain moving. And all of a sudden, I can't see everything. And I feel a hand. My father had big hands. He had fighter's hands. And all of a sudden, I feel a hand, and it's feeling my face. All of a sudden, I look, it's him. And he just says, that's my father, right to the point. He just says, they did a good job. You're going to have a scar for the rest of your life. And he left. I was like, that's what I've been waiting for.
You took 400 stitches for that?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I've been, but he was right. He got right to it. No, today we talk about society being too soft, right?
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's got to be cuddled. That was real truth. Whatever you want to call, people say, well, it's not love. Maybe it was. Well, the message received.
Who is somebody to judge somebody else who they love and how they love? Everybody loves differently, in my opinion. So who is somebody to say that that's not love? They're not him. How do they know? How do they know how he thinks?
100%. So as far as changing my I got in trouble on the streets.
And yeah, you did time in Rikers Island, too,
Yeah.
right? How was Rikers Island in the 80s?
Scary.
Bad.
Yeah.
How long was you doing there?
Not long. But
Was it robbery or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrible.
Rikers. Whew.
But I mean,
I can only imagine that in the 80s. God.
it's scary because right away they test you. They want to take your sneakers. I mean, that's the first thing. I like those sneakers. Yeah, bang. No, because I mean, if you don't do that, your sneakers are being taken. And the one thing that I understood, even that way, even then, without any introductory class to it, I didn't need one, was the sneakers was only the beginning of what they were going to take.
Right, yeah. That was like the cherry, right? They didn't even get to the the cones down the road.
I didn't want to get there. Didn't want to even think about that. So it was look, somebody asked the same question as you, and it's the right question. What was Rikers Island? And I think it's the right answer. Scary, but very scary, but dangerous. Any place that teenage kids are hiding, back in the day, this is what they were doing. This might be a wake-up call or like a shock to some people hearing this, but that are hiding razor blades in their mouth, the disposable razor blades, that are actually hiding them in their gums, in their mouth, so they can spit them out and cut you. It ain't a good place.
No.
That's it ain't a good place. And everybody mad, everyone angry. We talked about it earlier. You probably really could set them up on a lie detector, polygraph test, and it would be a straight line. That if they said they didn't know why they were angry, like it's a myriad of things, but no specific. They're just angry. They're angry. They had no father. They're angry, but not specifically saying, "Oh, because my dad."
There's not just like one reason, right?
Just they're angry, just angry. And look, for all that we're talking about, these neighborhoods, then you get someone like Colin Powell who will come out of that neighborhood, or Floyd Patterson, or a million of them. But again, that one person in your life, maybe, and that's. You can connect that with everybody in there, just about. I would say, and but again, it was meant to be for me, I guess, my journey, and thank God, got through it. But I remember when I was in trouble, when a friend reached out who was up in Catskill. Cus D'Amato was retired, basically. He was training a few kids, but really, basically. Retired up in the Catskills, and he had managed Floyd Patterson, Jose Torres, a whole bunch of fighters, and he had a gym down on 14th Street, the Gramercy Gym, great gym, and he was a great trainer, great manager, and legendary, and he's up there just hanging out, and had a little gym in the town of Catskill, and a friend of mine went up there. He had just won the Golden Gloves. I helped him a little bit. I sparred with him and stuff. I was in the same gym. I was fighting in the PAL, and he went up there. 4 months, I remember, 4 months before, and I get in trouble. And he, right away gets the word that I'm facing 10 years. And I have to go to trial, the whole thing. And he reaches out. Come up here. I'm going to talk to the man. Who's the man? I don't know the man. The man. He's the man. Cus. I'm going to talk to him, see if you could come up here.
What year is this now?
I would say 1975, somewhere around there, whatever, 74, 75. So maybe 74. So anyway, he goes to Cus. He tells him the story. He says, I'm afraid he'll get in trouble before he even goes through trial. Like he's not going to make it to trial. Like he needs to get out of there. And he's fighting all the time, blah, 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 whatever. And he said enough for this old man Cus to say, all right, bring him up here. I go up there. I'm not going to go through everything. And we'd be here for 4 days. But I go in the gloves, and I win the gloves. But the thing that won Cus for me, to Cus that won him over, if you will, was not that I was trying. I was just, but he got to really like me and take to me, was not that I won the gloves, which probably helped, but when I was going through what I was going through, he was finding out about the case a little bit. And again, you learn about life. I was the youngest one out of a group that I was involved with. They were older than me in one of the cases. There was 2 cases. And they turned, I almost don't want to say it because but they turned state evidence on me. I was the stupid little guy. And Cus saw that. And he saw that I didn't go that, and he said, you have character. And it made me feel, I don't know, but he said, you have character. They don't. And see, people thought I learned it from Cus. I learned it from my father through osmosis, because my father, we grew up, there was no buckling rule. Like you could buckle. You did what you said you were going to do. My father got surgery and still was in office the day after. Ridiculous. I mean, serious surgery. He was laying on a couch taking care of pain. I mean, it's crazy. But I mean, when he got older, he used to pop a little white pill under his tongue. And what the frick is that? Because his heart was skipping. But it allowed him to keep going. It was a nitroglycerin. And it kept, it wasn't a beanie. So, people get, so, and you can do it if that's truly what you're pledged to do, what you're truly committed to do. Everything else I know this is, you either have reasons or excuses. That's where I grew up. And my father didn't talk about it, just showed it by the way he lived. But he demanded it. But he didn't talk about it. And how could I give up somebody to get out of what I did? It wasn't even a thought. So later on, people said, "Oh, Teddy, you were a stand-up guy. What's a stand-up guy?" I stand up. I mean, what's a stand-up guy? Well, you're a stand-up guy. You didn't rat. I wasn't a stand-up guy. I didn't even know there was a thing called ratting. I didn't even understand the concept of it. All I knew is that you do something, you freaking go with what comes with it, because that's the way it is. You do something, you pay
consequences.
you pay the consequences. Right. You pay the price. Whatever. You did it. That's it. You don't think, this could be this way and this could segue out here and make a left turn here. No, that was it. So I didn't deserve credit for being stand-up because I didn't even know there was a choice. That really, and I told Cus that, and Cus was, you knew in a way that matters the most, a quiet, silent way, but you knew, and whatever, and he liked me, admired that part, whatever. So he came down to stand up for me in trial, and he made freaking court officers cry, which was crazy. They don't cry. And he told the judge, he goes, if you put him in jail, he goes, you're going to take away someone who can help people. You're going to take away a special person. Of course it's not true, but he was saying, he goes, you're going to take away someone special, someone who can make a difference. You're going to take that away. We're never going to see it again, and we're never going to get a chance to see what it could have been. And I'm telling you, I've been around kids, helping kids all my life, and I'm telling you, that's what you're going to be doing. And I'm begging you. And Cus got emotional. And the judge made a decision that changed my life, Instead of giving me, what he could have, he probated me to Cus D'Amato, and I broke it. I can't be a hero here and say, oh, yeah. No, I still wasn't ready. I still was messed up. After a year up there, I became friendly with the probation officer. He came and watched me fight. He loved it. He was a good guy, but I knew that he wasn't going to violate me. And I left. I went back, and I still kept doing wrong things. I left Catskill, and I went back, and Cus would call me every week. I went back.
What would he say to you when he called every week?
You could be a teacher. You could be a trainer. Because I had an injury. I couldn't fight no more. You could be...
what happened with your back that you couldn't fight anymore?
You know what it was? It was a combination of stuff I was born with, gaps in the vertebrae, different things from street fighting, whatever. A lot of things that probably could have been corrected, honestly. Cus was smart. He was a genius. He didn't want them corrected. He wanted someone to carry on for him. If I did it, I would have just been a fighter. And I was going to turn pro, all that stuff. But he saw something else. He saw that, he always said, Teddy, you were born to be a teacher. Come on, you were born to be a teacher. I'm telling you. And then he would say to me, you know what is the genesis, the real flame behind being a teacher? Obviously it's knowing knowledge and being able to convey it to someone else. But you know what it really is? And he said, I got this from my father, whatever. And I feel funny because I'm talking good about it, like I'm being an idiot right now. But he said, being a teacher means you care. You care beyond yourself. And he said, you could do so much more than just have your own career. You can help other people, blah, 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 blah. I didn't buy into it. I left. I'm not a good guy at that time. I left. I went back. I was freaking doing stuff on the street, real fast, forward. He's calling me every week.
That's so cool, though, that he kept calling you.
You're going to come up here?
So cool.
I need someone. I need a trainer to carry on for me. You could be that guy. You are that guy. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a trainer.
What are some other lines like that he used to say? I watched the documentary about him and Tyson, and he'd be like, you're a monster. You're a monster. When you're in that ring's your ring. What are some other things he would say, like, to you, or you heard him say that we don't know that are like impactful things like you're saying?
Anybody who says they're afraid, they're one of two things, Teddy. And remember this. They're either a liar or they need to go to a doctor and find out what's wrong with them.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about right.
Sounds just like it, too.
That's
like
about right.
From the documentary.
What happened was the friend who brought me up there was fighting in the Ohio State Fair. It was a national tournament, maybe the biggest in the country. And Cus don't go and work corners. He needed someone to go with him. It was for a whole week in Ohio. Called me up. He knew I wouldn't say no because I owed him. I need you to go. But it's the setup. It's the setup. You know,
He's plotting it, right?
Yeah, it's the spider bringing the beetle in. You know, yeah, and he's gonna put his webs on me.
Yep.
And he goes, I need you're not gonna do it, cause you know I'm gonna freaking do it. Well, you come up here, you leave tomorrow. Oh, you were guessing I was gonna do it, huh? Yeah, huh? Yeah, you were putting your finger in there and checking it. Please stop, Cuz stop. You did that to me already. The psychological warfare. I'm beyond that. So,
give me another psychological warfare from Cus. One more. That was a good impersonation. I'd give you a Grammy for that one.
Yeah. It's easy when it's there, you know, when it's real. It's kind of. I'll tell you one that some people won't like, but because you can. We used to get into this thing, me and Cus, about if people can change, and he had a theory that depending what you can learn, you can get better, yeah. But he thought that certain people, and it all started from your upbringing and whatever else, because that's where everything starts, but that the core had gotten to a place where at the end of the day they could hide it more, but that core wouldn't be changed. So we got into an argument over this one day, and he did one of his Cusisms on me. He just goes, Teddy! And I'm like, yeah.
Hello. All right. Yes, sir.
And he goes, remember this from this old man. People born round don't die square. Now go to the gym and train the fighters. So, I don't know. You can help people and people can change. There's no doubt about it. But he was trying to make a point to me.
So he suckers you into Australia, right?
Yeah.
So what happens?
No, not Australia, to Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah, no. So I go out there with the fighter, and we get all the way to the finals. We beat a future world champion. I mean, really, it's unbelievable. In the quarterfinals, we get to final, and we get all the way to the finals. I still remember it. I'd say the name, Bernard Bad Mays from the Croc. Right, Emmanuel Stewart, the famous, the legendary, the great, all that. Probably 300 amateur fights, whatever. Bernard Bad Mays, and he was bad. He was fast. And I came up with a plan how we had to. So, Cus on the phone. He goes, "How are you gonna beat this guy?" I said, "We gotta time him. We can't freaking get into a speed thing with him." He goes, "That's why you're gonna be." I told you. I said, Cus. I said, I'm not even going to answer you no more. I said, because you keep doing this to me. Stop. So anyway, we go, and we would have won it. I know it's easy to say. I get it. But he gets cut. And back in those days, the amateurs, they stopped like that if you cut. It was right on the eyelid. Not a good spot. Right on the eyelid, he got cut.
Gets in the eye compliant.
Yeah. Right. So we're winning. But got cut, fight stopped. That's it, over, done. But we made it to the finals. He wouldn't have made it to the finals without you there. You know, the whole kept. But it didn't get me there. And then all of a sudden, at some ungodly hour, in an ungodly place, on Bay Street in Staten Island, I'm there, probably 2 a.m, whatever. You know that old saying, it ain't nothing good being found at 2 a.m.
Yep.
And in those places. Well, I wanted to prove it. And once again, because I'm a slow learner, and a fight breaks out. And You know, when you see the movies, I could tell you things you learn. It's funny how people equate what they learned as learn. You know what I learned? I learned that that's all BS in the movies when Steven Seagal and all these guys get hit with a pool stick, and it does damage. It does no damage. A pool stick is nothing. They cracked a pool stick over my head. Yeah, I got a hard head, but pool sticks are easy. They're easy. It's the baseball bats. They're hard.
That's the ones you don't want to get hit with.
Those are the
Louisville
ones.
Slugger,
Pool
right?
stick, nothing. Nothing.
Pool stick, come on.
Come
a
on.
Louisville Slugger,
Come on, pool
no,
stick.
right?
You know what I mean?
You don't want the Louis.
You know, so, and these were cheap pool sticks because I'm in a cheap place. These ain't the Louis Mosconi pool sticks where you screw them in. You know, so yeah, that got things going, right? So, I'm fighting with these guys in the bar, and there's a couple of them, and I was never that smart. I'm fighting. It turns out to be, 2-3 guys. I mean, if you go back to the car, might as well. The truth should be told.
This episode is sponsored by Aurora. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is? For years, this crime rate has been surging and affecting millions of Americans. I'm talking about identity theft, and there's a new victim every 14 seconds. Yet despite this, those who have had their identity stolen are often shocked when it happens. That's why I'm excited to partner with Aurora, who is sponsoring this video. Aurora is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all into one easy-to-use app. Their VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted. Protect you and your family from America's fastest growing crime. Try Aurora for free for 2 weeks and see if you or anyone in your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial today. Go to aurora.com/MSCS. The link is in the description below.
Or my friend who was, a lot of people say, well, it was 5 guys, but you were, yeah, it turned out my friend was on the roof of the car. And look, I love him to this day. He's gone. He died. He died of AIDS.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but he was on the roof of the car with a broken Heineken bottle, like doing this kind of stuff. Like, that wasn't really going to help me.
Yeah,
but again, fear. Everyone deals with it different. We're all brothers. We really are because of that. Anyway, so I'm in the bar fighting with these guys and pool stick. Like, are you kidding me? So I took a cue ball. That hurts. Yeah. That hurts. Again, you got to be honest, right? I mean, if I'm telling a story, you can't hide things.
Sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you hit me with a pool stick. How about this pool cue?
No thanks.
Yeah. So on the temple.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got rid of him, and then
giving me a headache already.
And this was all over quarters. Putting your quarters up over like who's next. Can you imagine?
I can.
Yeah. All quarters, because back in that day you put your quarters up. That's how you got the next game. And anyway, so go outside, and it goes into the street, and I'm fighting a guy, and I win, whatever. So I go home. Finally, I'm living with my parents downstairs. I'm not at Cus's no more. I'm not living a good life. And all of a sudden I get a call. I pick up the phone. It's in the house. There's no cell phones, and it's my friend. Who was there. Same guy that was with me in the car. He calls me up. He says, Teddy, these guys, what are you talking about? They said they're going to burn they're going to burn your house down, my mother and father's house, if you don't come down here. Where are you? I'm on my way. And so I get down there. They're there, and I got my friend. So it's me. And and there's them, whatever, 3, whatever. But it's not that bad because I know what I'm doing a little bit, and I know what I'm going to do. Cus always told me, get the guy that's the so-called leader first. Crack him. I went right for him. Right for him. And he's putting his hands up, and we're going at it, and a jab, bang, right hand, over, out, hits the floor, the asphalt, and nobody's around anymore. And I remember Cus telling me that. He goes, and all of a sudden everyone disappears. They all disappeared. I was like, son of a gun, Cus.
This goes right.
Well, I mean, son of a gun. I mean, better than Raid with the cockroaches. You know what I mean? I mean, gone. All gone. All the cockroaches. They were cockroaches. All gone. And just me. I had been arrested. I'm on parole. I can't, I mean, I had other problems too. But, I mean, I'm still on parole and probation. I'm in trouble. So I'm out of there. Get in the car, boom, gone. Everyone's gone. Guy's still in the street. I come back. I said, son of a... I slapping him, all that stuff. Doesn't always work. And, oh, my God. Get up. You son of a... I drag him. You know that old saying that dead weight is heavy? It's heavy. It really is. For you guys out there that don't know, don't try it, but believe me, it's really heavy. And I'm pulling him like, holy crap. I scrunch him into... I wasn't real loving about it. And I get him into the back seat. I take him to the hospital. The same hospital where I got stitched up. It was the one in the neighborhood. So I take him there. I said, I need a thing to carry him, a thing. They bring it out. They come, they rush him in. They take him in the back. I'm leaving. I did my part. I stop. I go back. The girl's there, Can you tell me if he came to? If he's all right? No, he didn't come to. I sit down. I'm thinking, get up every 5 minutes. He come to? No. I'll let you know. All of a sudden it hits me that, like, should have had a V8. Like, it hits me like, oh, what a moron I am. This set me up. I jump up. I start running for the door. The cops come walking in. The guy came to, who knows when, probably right away. And he say, yeah, that's the guy who freaking knocked me out.
Waiting for the cops to get there.
And they're waiting for the cops to get there. And listen, this, for everyone out there, it's never good. You're in a bad place. You've been living wrong when the cops say, hey, Teddy, having a bad night again?
They know you by first name.
Like, when they know you by your first, not good.
Not good.
Not good. So they actually said, Teddy, hey, Teddy. Not good, huh? Bad night. Yep. So I got through that without getting into what had to happen because I was gone. They put me in front of a grand jury to indict. That's the procedure. And if they got enough information, they indict, and you're in trouble. I mean, serious. So that's what it was. So I had to go down to the Supreme Court with my lawyer, and the guy's testifying in front of the grand, and then I'm next. And anyway, when it was all over with, the DA comes out, and my father's a legendary doctor. I'm embarrassing the crap out of him, this freaking idiot that I am. And he goes, your luck's gonna run out, because you're gonna wind up dead or gone forever. He goes, but you beat it. You got lucky again. And he walks away, the DA. And I'm like, what the freak? Then a lawyer comes over and goes, they're not indicting you. And I'm thinking, whoa, wow, someone up there likes me. Whatever. Turns out my father had patience. My father took care of everybody. Some of the guys were those guys. And those guys obviously heard about it. Everyone knew what happened, and they went to this guy and said, "You're going to drop the charges. You not drop the charges. You couldn't drop them. You're going to change your story. You're going to change it and that'll take care of it." And he did. and because he did, I didn't go to jail.
And again, you're here.
Saved my
Right.
life. Yeah, so I still didn't go up to Catskill after all that, go back to Cus. And what happened was I was training 2 kids on the street. And Cus got all excited when he found out later. But they came up to me on a corner where the neighborhood was, and they said, "Could you teach us?" I was fighting, and they knew I was a boxer. "Could you teach us?" I don't know why I said yes. I really shouldn't have said yes for all the way I was living. I said yeah. And I took them down to this gym in the neighborhood, and they ran out of money. They closed in the summer. So I trained them for a month or 2 there, and then I borrowed equipment and started training them in the park to keep the training going. And we were training in the park, outdoors, obviously, and with borrowed equipment. And I had rules for them. You couldn't hang out in the corner. Obviously, you couldn't do drugs, anything. You couldn't be drinking. You couldn't be all these rules I gave to them. You can't hang out. You got to be. You can't get in trouble. Otherwise it's over. And they're listening, and I'm breaking every rule that I'm making them obey. And and that's when I got the problem in that bar during that time. And I'm training these kids, and they're learning. And all of a sudden, I get a knock on the door after this whole thing. And it's one of them. His street name was Joe the Blade.
Joe the Blade.
Yeah, cool name. And he says, "Can you come outside and talk to you?" Yeah, he was my, one of the kids I'm training. Come outside. I see he's got something in his. What the frick is that? I go crazy. He's got a gun. What the frick are you doing? He goes, "These guys got it on out there that they're gonna kill you. No more fighting. No more pool sticks. No more cue balls. No more whatever fist fights. They're gonna kill you." And he goes, "They're liable to kill you. You ain't gonna even know. They're cowards. They're gonna whatever." And we gotta go get them. I was always the only thing I had, I think, in my mind at that time in my life was my reputation that I was a little bit of a tough guy. I know that's stupid, but I didn't feel like I was worth anything else. I thought that was the beginning and the end of my worth, Teddy Atlas's worth. Of course, I'm wrong, fortunately, but I could get it where people get to those confined places of thinking. And I thought the only thing that mattered is that I never backed down from I know it's stupid, but that I never backed down, from a fight. And it was selfish. I didn't care about my parents. I didn't care about anything. I just cared about how it made me feel and look. That's all. That's selfishness. It is. It's hard to get to that place, but I got to it. And all of a sudden, this kid is willing to blow his life, and it would have been blow his life for me. I never had anybody willing to do that. I was willing to do it for others.
But nobody was ever willing to do it for you.
Ever. I never saw that, whatever you want to call it, loyalty, allegiance. I never, and I freaking said, I can't. It gave me an excuse to walk away from this where I couldn't have walked away by myself because I was doing it for him. I wasn't.
Because you wanted to save him.
Yeah, I wasn't tough enough to do it for myself because it would have made me look bad. But now I had a reason.
Right.
And I'm doing. I went in the house and I called Cus. Picked up the phone. Cus would sit by the phone. He'd wait, and like he wouldn't let it ring more than twice. Like when I lived with him, I lived there 7 years. I mean, if you go get, he'd pick it right up. So he picked. I knew it. I knew where he was, what chair he was in. Hey, Cus, what took you so long? Listen.
What took you so long?
and then you know what he would say? He's an old school guy from the Bronx. Really from tough place. He used to say, "What are you, a wise guy or a Boy Scout?" So he picks up the phone. Yeah. I said, "Listen, you still want me to come up there?" "Yeah, come up now." I said, "Cus, it's like 9:00 at night," whatever it was. I said, I can't come up now. All right, but one situation I got here that I can't come unless you know, I have to. What happened? Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to talk like slang that much, but I mean, it was the way it was back then.
Yeah.
Cus just says, "What? You knock some girl up?" I said, "No." That's the first thing. Like he said, he thought I got a girl pregnant, or something. He goes, "Did you knock up?" No. Well, what is it? What's the problem? I said, the problem is I've been training these two kids basically off the street in a park, and I can't just leave them. I told you were a trainer. I said, Cus, we don't have time for this. What are you saying? I have to bring them with me. I can't leave them here. Okay. I brought them up. Long story short, they lasted 9 months, changed their life. They lasted 9 months. I lasted almost 8 years. Probably about 8 years altogether. 7, 8 years. When you count up both before and after. And trained fighters, some guy named Tyson walked in the gym one day. Whatever. But
when do you meet Tyson? When he's what, 13?
No, 12.
12.
12.
Wow.
190 pounds all muscle. No, I mean, that's just the way it was. I mean, you know, I remember one of the fathers that came to the gym when I was with him the first day that they brought him from the prison. You know, they juvenile detention. They brought him in a van, and Bobby Stewart brought him over and took a look at him, and I was the trainer. I trained all the fighters for Cus. Cus would come by the gym maybe once a week, see what was going on, sometimes less, and but always reporting to him. Yeah, this, and I remember one of the fathers was there when we, but basically gave him, you know, a where he was on audition to if he was going to come with us, you know, and we let him box 2 rounds with Bobby, and never again, because after that we started teaching him, but just to see what he had, so to speak, but really what was inside. That's what it was about, because he was very raw. He didn't know how to fight.
When you first saw him, though, raw, did you know? Did you know?
Here's the thing. Like, there was one of the fathers was there that day, and I remember him saying to me, "Hey, Teddy, you might want to get a birth certificate before you believe he's 12. I said, I get it. I mean, I got eyes too. And after we finished 2 rounds with Bobby, and he got a bloody nose. Here's the funny part. Tells you about. I learned there are no naturals. Everyone said, "Oh, you're natural." No. He had ability, great ability, genetics, God-given ability, quickness, power. Punches are not made; they are born. It's that simple. You can improve it with technique, but you're either that kind of puncher or you're not. He was born. He was a puncher. The reason I say there's no such thing as a natural, he got a bloody nose. When we took him in and started training him, no more bloody noses. I remember Cus said that to me. You notice you don't get bloody nose? Because you don't get hit no more. Because you're teaching them. You're teaching them. And, he had to give me some cuts. I wasn't getting paid. So I'm up there, training fighters and nothing else 7 days a week. 7. He didn't believe in 6. And so he would push me. He even gave me a nickname to keep me going. The Young Master. Oh man, I floated out of the gym that day. Floated out like I was getting paid $10,000 an hour. Like, I'm the young master. I'm the young master. Gotcha. Oh, he was smart. So we started teaching him, after, but that was like an audition. And here's the thing: how smart Cus was. Not me, obviously. Cus goes, grabs me, takes me aside. After watching 2 rounds, kid that didn't know how to fight, but strong. In there with the 27-year-old man who was a national amateur champion and had 14 pro fights. Okay, but the guy was holding back. Don't get me wrong, but still, he had to open up enough to keep this powerful kid from getting to him. That's all we needed to. We're supposed to know what we're doing here. We're supposed to know. Cus used to say to me, "Atlas, if you don't know what you're doing here, go in the corner and sell Italian ices." All right, Cus. Okay, I know what I'm freaking doing. All right. You keep learning. So, I sound like Mickey from Rocky. So Cus was a lot more cerebral than Mickey. God bless Mickey. So, he takes me aside. He puts his arm around me, Cus. He says, we're going to take this kid in. We had to make arrangements for him to come into our custody when he got finished with his sentence. He had a few more months. I can't remember what it was, 4 more months, whatever. He said, he's going to be your first heavyweight champ. What are you talking? He's 12 years old. He don't know how to tie his shoes. Like, Cus, what are you? I'm telling you, if you do your job, we do our job, and he stays interested. That's the key. He's got to stay interested, and want to obviously do his part. But he'll be your first heavyweight champ. Come on. I mean, how? I don't even know what to call that. Ingenious, insightful, crystal ball, impossible. Think about it. I mean,
the kid's 12, right?
But that's like, think about saying that. And so he wound up living with us, and sometimes you see certain things that a moment can show you, where everyone's at. Cus once told me, he said, I didn't get married because I was married to this sport. That's pretty deep, like a little crazy, but like I couldn't marry someone because it would have been unfair to that person, because this is it. It really was for Cus. And so we're at the table. He had to come and stay with us, Tyson, a couple times before he got released. That was part of the protocol before the state would let him come and stay with us. So he's over there for one of the weekend visits, and we're at the table, and he's on good behavior. He's a street kid. That's all he knows. So he's got these instincts. I want to do everything right. I don't want to blow this. So he's tried too much. I remember telling him, I said, stop the yes, sir stuff, because someday you're going to be looking to call me something a lot less respectful than that. So that's like, stop it, like now.
Yeah,
because we kind of understand where we're coming from, both of us. So anyway, he's at the table, and it's a table, we're all sitting there, and it's a heavy table, and the table has a lot of food on it. Cus believed in too much food. He came from a poor family, but one thing, an Italian family, he always said, my father made sure we had food, no matter how poor we were in the Bronx. No matter how poor, we had food. So Cus would drive Camille crazy. Like, if we had like 9 people coming over, 9 people at the day, he'd say, how many chicken wings? We had chicken wings. How many chicken wings you got? I got plenty. There are 2 for everyone. 2 might be enough. What if they want 3? She said, Cus, nobody eats 3 full wings. I do. I eat 3 or 4. We need more. Well, I don't have no more. He'd walk across to the carriage house. There was 10 acres of land where we lived there, in an old Victorian mansion on the Hudson River up in Catskill, Camille's house. He'd walk across to the carriage. Come on, Atlas. Walk across. I'd have to go with him. And he had a freezer there. What the freak? What do you got? People chopped up in here? Open up the freezer. He had his extra storage of food. Can you imagine? He goes, grab that, grab that, grab that. Don't say nothing.
Don't say nothing.
Okay. What is this? Kabasi. Grab that. The big thing of kabasi. Yeah. Bring that. We got kabasi chicken wings. We got everything going. Camille's like shaking her head. Oh my God, we don't. No, we got to be sure. So anyway, there's a lot of food on the table. And here's this 12-year-old kid from the environment, Brownsville, in jail, right? It's tough for him, going through this. It's a God gift, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, to deal with this and try to navigate how to behave and everything, And so he's trying to be on perfect behavior. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. No. So Camille says, Mike, just like that, can you reach over and get a spoon, like in the cabinet behind you? Well, he jumps quicker than he would later. Very quick. He jumps, and one of his legs get caught under the underpinnings of the table and picks up the whole table. And the food starts moving, the whole table. Now, I'm sitting there. I'm the trainer. I know I got to train this guy. And I'm training everyone. I'm there 7 days a week training, fighting. And I quickly take a survey of everything, like seconds, and I'm watching everybody's reaction. Camille's yelling, "Oh no, you're gonna spill!" She's upset. She's doing that, right? Other one's yelling, Tyson's going, "Oh!" and he's covering his face, and he's like, he's mortified. He's upset that he did something wrong. I'm sorry, like he's right. And so I'm watching everybody, and then I go right to the man.
What's he doing?
Look at that power! The next heavyweight champ of the world.
Unbelievable, right?
Oh my God!
Everybody's yelling and screaming. He's just like, look who's coming.
That's what he sees.
Yeah,
that's all he sees.
And now when he gets done with that, the 4 months where he has to go back and forth, and now you get him in the ring and you start training him. What are you seeing him?
We didn't even wait. Cus didn't believe in waiting. Cus talked to Bobby Stu and said, "Can we work something out here that we don't have to wait till 4 months?" "Yeah, I could maybe. Once a week you bring them here." He goes, "Yeah, but I'd have to bring some of the other kids, prisoners, in a van. They'd sit, they watch, and no problem. Teddy would train them 1 hour a week, 2 hours, whatever it is." So I would get there a little earlier because I started to develop a gym of fighters because there was no one there when I started training. All of a sudden, 5 kids, 10, 20, 30. We had a real gym. Because they heard this young guy is training fighters. Go. And everybody started going. And we had a real gym. Real stable fighters. Cus was so proud. Cus would come like once a week. He goes, "Look what he's doing. Look, he's making champions." So, and again, I float out of the gym, Meanwhile, I didn't have money to get a cheeseburger. But I float right out of there like I was Angelo Dundee and Eddie Fudge put together, like I was making money, millions. And, but he was right. I was on the right track. And I was paying my dues, doing what I had to do. And so we would, what was it we were...
Well, what was the biggest thing you saw with Mike?
So during that period, during that period, senior moment, during that period, Cus said, "We're not waiting." So he talked to Bobby, figured out that once a week he could come. So that once a week he would bring the van. I'd get there earlier for the gym for the rest of the kids. During the day, I trained pros. Jim Jacobs, who was Cus's best friend, would send pros up for me to train during the day, and at night I trained with amateurs. I'd go all day. So I'm training Tyson every Monday, I think it was every Monday. He would come with the van, train him, and he'd go back to the prison and practice. And he did this for 4 months. And then when he finally got released to our custody, lived with us, he already had a base, good base. And I had a base of understanding. And then we went from there. And he was like a sponge. Just kept learning, and so powerful. And I didn't have too many big guys. So I was training guys, amateur kids, a couple big ones, and I couldn't put him in with him. He was 12, he became 13. But I had one guy, he was in his 20s. And I couldn't put him in with him because the old timers used to have this saying, Cus would tell me, Teddy punched so hard he hit you on top of the head and fractured your ankles. that was Tyson. Right. He literally hit this guy on top of the head and the guy was gone. I was like, so I was like the parent watching the bad kid sometimes. And, I would go, "Hey, I told you not to hurt him." It was crazy. I told you not. What? And meanwhile, he's only 13. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he does know. He knew he was hurting him. He does know. That's where you're wrong. But he was testing his power. But really, you're asking a 13-year-old to take it easy with a 20-something-year-old. So he's probably thinking, well, who's looking out for me? You know? And I was looking out for him because I knew he had the edge. I was teaching him. I knew, but I also knew he wouldn't get sparring if he banged these guys out.
Nobody would spar him.
We'd have nobody, and we had nobody. So I would have to jump in there and say, "Hey, you know what you did." "Oh, I didn't mean." "Yes, you did. Now you can't do that. I'm not going to let you box him no more." And so there was a lot of phases that we had to go through, a lot. And he had a mental weakness. We all do. But as strong as he was, I remember giving an interview, and I said to someone, we were getting ready to go our first National Junior Olympics out in Denver, Colorado. And we flew out there for a week, and he knocked everyone out in the first round.
How old was he then?
14. But with other kids, other young
everyone
kids.
out in the first round.
Yeah. So we go out there, and then the next year he did the same thing.
And you're coaching him.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and everyone's saying he's the natural. And I would get pissed because they said, no, he had to be taught. He wasn't doing that when he came. He was getting bloody noses, but he don't know more because he learned. Yeah, he's got the natural ability, but it had to be harnessed. It had to be taught. And there was still a part, Cus would always tell him, there's still a component that he hadn't on. And we need this for life. We need this to be good in everything. It's the most important part, this part, the mental part. The most important part, controlling your fear, whatever you want to call it, but this part. But for me, being calm in an uncommon environment, you got to get a guy to there where he can see things. This part, where that doesn't work against you. That doesn't
get in the way of
compromise you. That does, yeah. Because it will get in the way of talent. So he had a weakness. We all do. If he didn't get rid of you, see, I would always say, and Cus said, "Yeah, it's good, young master. That's good that you."
Young master.
Yeah, I say he's got a curse, and so Cus wanted to go farther. He goes, "Explain yourself." Well, he can punch, so it's easy. He hits somebody, it's gone. It's like an eraser. Get rid of what's on the chalkboard. And he goes, "I'm listening." I said, "So Tyson has this great gift to have, but you hit somebody, gets through, but." Then you don't have to learn the other things. I said, we'll teach him to the jab, how to set it up, all that. But the mental part where he has to deal with when there is nothing there to hurt a guy, when a guy ain't going to go away, to become tough in that area, more together in that area, to know you can rely on yourself, not on your power. He goes, young master, yes. We got to do that with him. I said, that's the thing.
You're like, how do I do that, Cus?
And he said, you got to call him on it all the time and make him stronger in that area. So sure enough, we had to hire a kid. Well, he's 14 years old now. We're hiring professional sparring partners, well, top amateurs, whatever. But we're hiring guys to spar with them. And no, seriously, I mean, it's and coming into spar this 14-year-old kid, and we're losing him because he's knocking them out. So we get
Teddy,
one who's
when you go hire these professional guys, what are they saying when they realize they're about to fight? Right?
Yeah, like a 14-year-old.
Well, you start at a certain level, like we're hiring good amateurs in the area, and they're like this kid, you know what I mean? Like yeah. And then they get hit, and
then they start telling their friends,
and they're not coming back. Yeah, you got to get someone else. And then we get to higher levels of guys. And when we got to the higher levels, rightfully so, he had problems. But the problem wasn't that he wasn't good enough. He didn't know he was good enough. He didn't know he could rely on him, only on his power. He had to get stronger within. So, and Cus didn't say none. I saw it, and he said, do what you got. What are you doing? So Cus came one day. We hired a guy, and we actually we didn't hire this guy. We didn't have to because he was a top guy and he came over to spar. We told him the story, and the word was getting out about Tyson a little bit. He won the national, knocked everyone out. So even though this guy's like probably 20, Tyson's 14, and Tyson can't get rid of him. Either the guy's got a good enough chin or he knows how to hide his chin. And like we said, it could be a curse. This great gift can be a curse because now what? Now what? You depend, just like in life with other things you depend on. But now what when that thing's taken away from you? Now what?
When that first round's done.
When that person ain't there no more to protect you. Now what? Or when there's or your daddy, now what? Or this or that. Or what's going on in society right now. When the reality of the real world eventually is going to catch you. Eventually it's going to, you can only be in that vacuum so long. Eventually that, all this wokeism, whatever you want to call it, all this coddling and everything, all of a sudden you're going to be in a place where that ain't there. That don't exist. That don't work. Now what? Now what? Did they do you a favor or a disservice? You know that commercial? Remember that commercial? It was a Fram oil filter where the guy said, "Pay me now." It was like $10. Pay me now, or pay me later when your engine conks out. And to me, I look at it in a simple way like that. Pay me now or pay me later. And so everyone's protected. You know, oh, got to cuddle the guy. Give him a safe zone. Or what? Give him a kitten. You hear the latest? They're handing out kittens for these college kids. Oh, wow. That's tough, right? You got to have, because it's tough. It's real hard. Yeah, it is hard. I mean, go study. I mean, yeah. I mean, you gotta get a break. Walk outside, get a break. Call you somebody. Great, yeah, get that. But you gotta get a kitten. The kitten ain't gonna freaking do the test for you. The kitten can't write. I don't think. I mean, are you kidding me?
Did you guys bring a kitten for Mike when he was fighting
kittens.
a 20-year-old that he had tough
listen,
time?
He used to fly pigeons, and when they were no good, he broke their necks. So I hate to think what he would have done if we gave him a kitten. We weren't bringing no kittens. That didn't go over with us.
Yeah.
So now you're in the real world.
So what happens when he's having trouble?
So he's having trouble.
For the first time, right?
He's boxing a guy in the ring, in the gym, and he can't knock him out. He can't hurt him. And the guy ain't showing he's hurt. And like I used to say, I knew myself, but Cus would say, a real pro ain't going to show you he's hurt. He's not going to give you that privilege, that help. He ain't going to show you. You hit him a good shot, but he's hurt, but he ain't going to show you. It's up to you to do your job, to see past that, to believe in yourself past that, not to have to see that the guy's hurt for you to do your job. Do your job because it's your job. Very important. So now he's in there and he's hitting a guy, doing whatever. He's too fast for the guy, but the guy's an experienced guy, and the guy's rolling and blocking, and the guy's still there, and the guy's going, and all of a sudden, Tyson's getting inside. Now Tyson's like Rocky Marciano in a way, where he's got shorter arms. He's 5'10", so you don't have to be Teddy Atlas or Eddie Fudge or Angelo Dundee or Cus D'Amato to tell you that it's important that he learns how to fight on the inside. He ain't going to be able to beat everyone on the outside. So you get inside, what's that mean? It means you have to consistently keep your hands in position where you can punch. But what does it really mean? It means that you want to be inside to do that. That's what it really means. And you have the discipline to do that. So he gets inside, what's he do? He puts his hands behind the guy. Why? People say, Teddy, why? What do you mean? Well, he knew that most likely human nature is to seek the easiest, less resistance, the easiest way. Human nature. If it's not disciplined. The disciplined ones, they're the special ones. They're the ones. But at that stage, so he puts his hands behind, and what's the other guy do? He grabs. Free ride. And then what Cus said to me, what is he doing, Teddy? I said, he's getting a free ride. And he said, Cus tells me afterwards, we go over everything, he goes, silent contract. I said, yeah. He was making a silent contract. You don't hit me, I won't hit you. No silent contracts in this business. I got it, Cus. No silent contract. I jump in the ring. He's got his hands behind the guy, but I slap his hands out. No silent contracts. Keep your hands where they're supposed to be. Defend yourself. Be responsible defensively and punch. No silent contract. No free rides. No free lunch. And, so that had to be done. And and it stayed with him. In the pros, too, that weakness showed up every once in a while. But that was his only weakness. There was no physical weakness. None. Speed, power, innate intelligence, instincts, finishing ability, killer instinct, whatever you want to freaking call it. Throwing punches with bad intentions, as we coined that phrase. He throws with bad intentions to knock you out. So nobody's a natural. There's always phases of learning, steps of learning, and ways to take those steps. And we had to take all those steps. All those steps had to be taken.
At what point did you believe that he was going to be world champion? One day.
When I was gone. It got to the point where I was gone. you know.
Yeah.
And it dissolved. Our relationship dissolved and went bad, and because of specific things. And
you don't have to elaborate on it, but whether he was 15 or 56, you're the only guy with the balls in this entire world, in my opinion, that would put a gun to Mike Tyson's ear.
he was 16 at the time, but he was
still.
At that point he was 220. No, 210. I don't want to be saying something that's not exactly accurate. He was 210. He grew into 210, you know. And but it wasn't about balls. It was about again, kind of like when I didn't give up somebody when I was younger, and you know, take that way, because of
it was about principle for you.
Yeah,
right? I'm just
something like
when I say balls, I'm like, you know,
I appreciate it,
yeah.
but it was just something that it had to be done. Like I felt like, in a way, it's instead of taking credit, in a way, it was selfish, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Because I knew what it would do to me, my family too. So it wasn't just me; it was my family too. But I also knew what I'd have to live with, and I wasn't willing to live with that. I always felt that there's a real deeper definition of living. Is it existing? Is it taking breaths? Is it, you know, doing your daily stuff and getting nutrition in you and working a job, and you know, or is it beyond that? And you know, and part of beyond that is fulfilling yourself in the way that we all strive to fulfill, to feel like, I hate to use such a stupid, simple term, but to feel like a man, to feel like a human being, to have all the things that a person should have: dignity, self-worth, all those things. Otherwise, you're dead. And I always felt like I'd rather be dead. I'd open up the freaking floor, open up the ground, go 6 feet, and just get me in there, because I'm dead. If I can't have that. And again, there's an element of selfishness. I get it. But it's also an element, a real element of just a connection to life. I think that we can all at some point equate to that, you know, you have to feel like there's a worth to you. Otherwise, you're just a walking
robot.
Yeah, capsule, a physical capsule, a robot. You know, that was going to be taken away. That was going to, I know there's a way to hide from it, but there's no hiding from certain things. There's no hiding from that. I learned that young. I can't tell you exactly. I guess I talked enough that you could get an idea. But I learned young, you can't hide from yourself. You can't hide from those things. Those things are...
What you're saying is who you are is who you are.
Yeah,
right?
Those are entwined in, you know, they're just intertwined into our fabric of being, you know, as much as, you know, having a muscle that connects to the elbow that allows you to move your shoulder. I mean, it allows you to move. It allows you to demand things, to feel things, to say things, to believe that you have a say in things, a right to say anything. And you lose all of that when you lose yourself. And if I let him do what he had done with, you know, a member of my family who was 11 years old at the time, or suggesting to do, he didn't do anything. He didn't go and rape anyone. He didn't do nothing, but he was suggesting what he was going to do.
And would you just pull him aside and put a 39 to his head and
38.
38. Yeah.
I mean,
and Cus had adopted him, right?
He became a ward of the state. He hadn't formally got adopted.
All the paperwork.
Here's where it got tricky.
Yeah.
If the state found out somebody, his trainer, put a gun to it, he wasn't going to be a ward of the state of Cus D'Amato no more. Right. So Cus
really didn't have a choice.
Well, not only have a choice, it got tricky, it got difficult. I mean, he actually sent somebody to where I was living with my wife at the time. I just got married, and you know, and I was the guy. I trained all the fighters for all these years. Now, you know, this changed everything, and he sent them to my apartment, and said, if you leave, because I guarantee you 5% of Tyson for the rest of his, you know, wherever he goes. I say, shove it up your, you know, because I wasn't capable of comprehending deals. You know what I mean? I wasn't. I was where I was.
Right.
And I said, freaking Cus. I mean, you kidding me? You know, I was very hurt. I felt betrayed. You know, and but Cus, it's very powerful when your life is all one thing and what do you have? It gets to that. What do you really have? What do you leave? What are you leaving? Like, the only thing Cus had was boxing, and the connection of boxing was champions, and the real connection to Cus was heavyweight champions, and that, with all the sacrifice he made through his life, I was only thinking about the sacrifice I made, but with all the stuff that he made through his life, it almost wasn't going to have any worth without another heavyweight champ. And that became so powerful that I think he compromised himself a little bit, but I understood it as I got older. I didn't at the beginning. I had a lot of hate in me and but I understood as I got older. I said, who the frick am I to tell a man that, you know, that he shouldn't have taken that side? You know, he should have stuck with me, loyalty, all that stuff. You know, that was always important to me, and important to Cus. But who was I to point a finger and say, hey, you didn't behave right? I mean, this is a guy who put his whole life, he didn't get married, like I told you, just to dedicate and commit to boxing. What would he have at the end if he didn't have another heavyweight champ?
Nothing. He gave up his whole life for it.
And, you know, and that's what it...
And he knew Mike was going to be.
He knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, you asked me when did I know?
Yeah.
When that happened, I kind of, if that makes sense, I kind of knew. I said, yeah, almost like in a way, like, yeah, he'll go on and become heavy. That kind of way, almost more like, you know, not so much to, you know, the genius way, like Cus knew, you know.
It was more like, yeah, he probably will go on and be heavyweight champion.
What? He'll become heavyweight champion.
And next thing you know, he's fucking knocking everybody out.
And he'll make $500 million.
That you could have got a 5% of, right? I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Whatever. Things happen, right? You know.
Who knows if I really could have? I mean, I learned that through life, too. Who knows if that ever would have really happened? But it didn't matter. Because it wasn't about 5%. It wasn't about the money.
It's about the love of the sport.
Yeah,
right?
and it was about, he did something wrong to my family after I trusted him and loved him and gave whatever I had to give to him, you know, as my job, and trusted him. And, you know, he betrayed that, and he threatened my family, you know, and he threatened me, you know, through my family.
You guys are on good terms now, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's probably a better man than me because he came to me years ago. He picked a hell of a time to do it. I'm doing a freaking show live on ESPN Friday Night Fights, and he's there, and it was up in Verona, Turning Stone Casino, up in Verona, New York, and here we are live, and all of a sudden, you know, I haven't ever come into, you know, that kind of contact all these years, obviously, or that, you know, situation. We had seen each other, but never in this kind of way where, you know, I know he's coming and maybe by accident, but now we know he come. All of a sudden, my director, my producer in my headset says, Ted, don't want to throw you off. You know, and I'm in
I want to throw you off.
I'm in the middle of calling a fight to, like, hopefully many people watching, right, on ESPN, and I'm calling him. He goes, I don't want to. Don't let this distract you, but Tyson's coming over to see you.
You're probably like, what? Don't let this distract you now.
So I go into talk back. Because you can go into talk back, I go into talk back. Thank God I hit it right and it didn't come across because I didn't use the greatest language, I was like, what the F are you freaking talking about? Coming where? When? What shoulder?
Yeah.
And I got my brother, Saul Avalar. He used to do the fight plans with me. Teddy has fight plan before the fight we did for years. And when I came out of retirement, I trained fighters. I took him with me as an assistant. I went to do the Olympics for NBC. I took him with me. He's like my brother, and very loyal.
What do you got there, Rob? Hold on.
I'm trying to find. I can't find.
Oh, okay.
So I knew he was there. He was sitting behind me somewhere. So
Tyson's behind you.
No, Tyson's not there yet. So I just kept the finger and I said, "Sal, let me know what shoulder he's coming on." And Sal, of course, right there like a little pit bulldog. And God bless. So listen, he was better than me, bigger than me. He was going through his 12 steps and with addiction and all what he was going through, and he was going through changes in his life, and I guess his people told him, and he himself came to the thought that he needed to make amends with certain things in his life for him to be right. And he came over, and and here we are in the air. You could have done it a little different, but I got up and I turn around. I don't know why, just that he's coming. And there it is.
That's the one right there?
Yeah. And
so take me through this conversation here, because everybody on the planet wants to know.
So I'm in a suit and tie. I took my jacket off just to be loose. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with this guy? Eat me up.
I don't know.
So, he, I turn around, there he is. That's it. And I let him talk, and he says, "I'm sorry." And he says, "I'm sorry. Can I shake your hand?"
He's got his hand out there.
And see, I didn't even see that. He goes, "I'm sorry. Will you shake my hand?" At first, I'm just hearing it, so my hand's not up yet. Will you shake my hand? And I'm sorry. And you can see in Mike's face, it's tough on him, but he wants to do it, and he's doing what he feels is right, and I appreciate it. But you got to understand, I'm always going to say what I really feel. I'm not going to say for you or for him. I'm going to say what I feel. It gives me the right then to say other things if I can be straight. I wasn't sure. Like, I don't trust people. And I wasn't sure, is this real? Like, and then all of a sudden you only got a flash second. I wasn't big enough to know. I'm not afraid to. Can I trust him? Like, what is this? Like, is this real? Is this photo op? Like, what is this? And, and all these years gone by, but you got a flash. And I said, freak, if he's big enough, he's got to be holding things too. If he's big enough to make this step and say what he's saying, I'm sorry. What the frick am I? Who am I to say no and to judge him at this moment? I can only judge him and hope I'm judging him by that he's here and what he's saying to me. So I put my hand up and then we hugged. I think you got the next picture probably somewhere. And then we hugged. And when we hugged, he said, "I love you."
Oh, that was nice.
And
that was nice, man.
Yeah. So. I hope he's in a good place. It seems like he's in a good place now in his life. He's doing things, and it seems like he's happy, and I'm glad. You
think he'll come back and start fighting again?
He did that thing with
Roy.
They do that thing. He's 55 years old, but they do those things now, like that. They do these.
That was like an exhibition type thing?
Yeah, but they do them now. I mean, you got Jake Paul doing his thing. He's out there. Hey, give him credit. Give him credit.
Fight Mike, I think he's crazy.
No, he's not going to fight Mike. But I mean, unless there's a deal to be made there. But I'm not saying that. No. But no, even at 55, I don't think he's fighting Mike. But he put it out there. But you give him credit. I mean, he figured out something, and he's making money at it. And he legitimately respected the sport enough to go out there and work his backside to learn the fundamentals the best he could. And is he picking the spots where he picks guys? But he's picking fighters, MMA fighters. They're not boxers. But he is picking guys. Are they older? The last guy was 47. Legendary guy, Silva. But he's taking a risk. He's still getting in there, taking a risk. Yeah, he's picking guys. But when did we ever knock fight? Mayweather used to pick his opponents pretty damn good. Now he's a great fighter. I'm not comparing him, but we didn't knock him. He used to be pretty smart at picking opponents, especially later in his career. So we're supposed to hate on him for being smart. He's picking spots, but he's still a risk. He's still getting in the ring. He's still getting hit. And you know what? Again, he respected the sport enough to go and say, I got to get a trainer. I got to learn. He spent a few years learning. I give him credit for that. And he found, it's the American way, I thought. He found a way to make money without hurting nobody. Well, if you punch somebody, you could hurt them. But I mean, within a legal realm, and he's doing it. And he's created something where he took his 20 million followers from YouTube games and he took it into this arena. That's incredible.
It is.
I mean, if you think about it, you know, it's like, it's like he created his own matrix.
That's got to be mind blowing for you from coming up the way you did, and then seeing how things are now. It's like, whoa.
I mean, he's doing. At first, I was against it. At first, I was like, this ain't real. This ain't right. This is disrespectful to the sport. This is not fair to other fighters who really go through the journey they go through to try to make money, and he's making all this money right away, where he hasn't gone through that journey. But then I let go of that. I said, he's going through his own journey. He was smart enough to figure it out. He was smart enough to see that there was a place here to do this, and he's taking a risk, his own risk to do it. There is a risk. There's an emotional and physical risk. He could get embarrassed to death, and he could get hurt. He could get hit as much as he's hitting on. Even if he's picking guys that were MMA, there's still guys that were professional fighters. So,
and bringing over millions of followers.
It's like the Rocky movie. Yeah. People used to talk about the Rocky movie. The good thing, it brought attention to the sport.
Yeah.
And he's bringing more attention to the sport in that way. So in that way, he's not hurting us. People said, oh, he's hurting boxing. How? How?
That's what I was going to say. Do you think, and again, this is just my opinion, I loved boxing. I still do like boxing. MMA I really, really like. I think my generation has appreciated MMA more than boxing because we used to always say, like, now Tyson Fury is a different thing, but you don't have that heavyweight guy, like the Mike Tysons, the Lennox Lewises, the Evander Holyfields, like all those guys. And for some way, and this is just my opinion, you might disagree, that boxing had died. And now you have this resurgence again, I feel. And even though Jake Paul, call him what you want, he's kind of made the emphasis back on boxing again. And do you think for the younger generation that has helped him, Jake Paul has helped, and I mean this in a nice way, the death of boxing, bringing it back?
Well, to your point, is a pretty good point.
I stopped watching it too.
I
used to watch it. Remember Teddy? Everybody used to go on Friday nights, Saturday nights.
Yeah.
We, especially when we were kids, in high school, coming right out, we would all wait for the big fight. One person would buy it on pay-per-view or whatever, and the house would be full. We'd bring in the jungle juice that we weren't allowed to have, and everybody was there. Fucking fast forward, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, but
like
UFC kind of took over that spot.
See, I couldn't get in. Tony's kind of got, our buddy Tony, he's getting me into it, and Bass, right, and he got me into it. But before those guys, the UFC, I liked boxing. I was a boxer. I liked boxing. That leg kicking and all that thing, that to me, that was like karate. That just was odd to me. It was to me, it was, this sounds crazy, having been a boxer, it was too brutal. It seemed so brutal, like a leg kick to the head.
It was, and it still is, but there's more to it.
I understand that now. You know what I mean? From talking to UFC guys, because I didn't understand the practice of it, the training of it, like this spot, that spot. Okay, this guy gives you a leg kick. you move your head a little bit to lose some of the impact.
The science.
Initially, I'm just watching, and I'm like, God, this is some brutal shit. I like to watch two hands up.
It is brutal.
And just go back and forth.
But it's also they're special.
They're very special.
But what I'm saying with Jake Paul is like, from my generation, I'm talking about you people can rattle off Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Bernard Hopkins.
This generation forgets them. They don't even know them.
They don't know them. But if you ask this generation to name a UFC fighter, they can start rattling some off. If you ask them to name a boxer, Tyson Fury would probably be the one that's number one on everybody's list.
And Canelo.
That's
about it.
And that's about it.
Pacquiao.
So by Jake Paul doing this, do you think he's kind of, again, in my opinion, brought boxing back from this part where the younger generation has no clue to say, hey, here's this sport, here's these guys, and maybe it'll kick off something more from there?
When a new restaurant opens up, they put those beams up in the air, to get your attention to go to this new spot. He's been a little bit of that beam in the air, a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy here with this, but to your point, it's a good point. The people weren't resonating with the guys today for a lot of reasons, but the young crowd, this generation, they weren't resonating with remembering the Tysons and the Mayweather even and those guys, but Jake Paul got their attention. So did he service that spotlight to a certain extent in the crowd where he reminds you there's a new place over here, there's a place that was over here, and you kind of forgot about that place? And it's a new place to some of these kids because they didn't know about it. So I think Paul, to a certain extent, that's a good point, that he has done that to that extent a little bit. It's kind of, again, back to the Rocky movies. Like, he's got people talking about boxing. He's got people, the crossover people that weren't talking about before, the lost generation. The lost generation, a little bit. And that's, all the other sports are on major television. Boxing is basically cable. So how do you know about it? How do kids connect with the guys you're talking about anymore, unless there is somebody out there crossing over a little bit, reminding you that this is here? Like, it's hard for them to connect with everything being on cable now. You got Showtime, but it's all cable, and then you got pay-per-view, and.
But here's an example, Teddy. Like the fight that was just Triple G, the last fight.
Too old.
Okay, he held in now.
Yeah,
I give, he did held in.
But maybe Canelo's overrated.
Yeah.
Well, the haters out there, they got their knives out now, and that's okay.
I think I agree with you. I
think
he's
getting old. He's getting a little old too, but I think he's overrated.
I think he's a little bit overrated.
But I think he's getting a little long in the tooth.
But my point was, like, before, when there would be a big fight, you would see that commercial for pay-per-view. 2 weeks before the fight, it would be on every station.
But that's to the point. That's
now,
what I'm saying.
Teddy, I didn't even know when the fight was. Tony told me.
Again, that stuff's hidden away too much now. And Paul, he's that light, bringing a little bit of light to it, that something that was hidden away, it's here again, or reminding people it's here. So,
but when you think that the Canelo or that the Triple G fight, like, wouldn't you think that would be on
like real boxing?
No, because people aren't stupid. People know that he was 42 years old. That Triple G, 41, whatever it was.
Whatever.
And the fight was happening 5 years too late.
Yeah,
how does
5 years
I
too
guess
late
my question for you is, as a boxing fan and as a UFC fan, and I have this funny conversation with my wife's uncle, who is an absolute boxing nut, loves boxing to the death of him. And I always joke with him. I'm like, yeah, old man. I go, boxing's dead. It's UFC that's taken over. And when you think about it, though, you see what UFC has done. Can boxing ever get back to this prominence where you had your Mike Tysons and everybody was
only one way? The healthiest place that boxing, you go back to the 30s, the 40s, boxing was the biggest sport than baseball. It was the biggest sport in the country. And things changed, but you go back to the 80s, and boxing was really, really healthy. 3 reasons. Again, not complicated, simple. One, first of all, it was on regular free TV, so people knew about it. They could become household names, like baseball players, like football players, like basketball players. that doesn't happen no more. So it was on free TV. It was on NBC, ABC's Wide World of Sports on Saturday afternoon, Sunday. You sat with your family. Let's watch the fight. That's gone. But the 80s had great fighters, great talented fighters. Guess what? There's some great fighters today. Some, maybe not as many, but there's very talented fighters today. Here's the difference. Here's the secret. Back in the 80s, they were fighting each other. The problem today is you got the talented fighters, the special ones. See, back then you had Sugar Ray Leonard, great fighter. You had Tommy Hearns, great fighter. You had Roberto Duran, Pernell Whitaker, all great fighters. They were all fighting each other. Marvin Hagler, all fighting each other. That competitiveness, it's not just the name. They're putting on fights where you could make an argument for either side. Today, too often you got boxing where you got 4 or 5 power brokers in the sport. There's no czar. There's a national commission in all the other sports. There is none in boxing. And there's one guy in MMA and UFC. That's Dana White. He creates the rules. You know why they've grown? Their brand has grown. One of the reasons, every fight is competitive because it's his way or the highway. He's thinking about the brand. He's thinking about the sport. Yeah, himself. Yeah, the business. But it's the whole sport. These promoters, and it gets healthier. And then it gets healthier. It trickles down to everybody.
Yeah, what Dana White did is amazing.
No, it's great.
Amazing.
But it's simple. Ain't complicated. He said he was the czar. He was the dictator. Yep. Dictators could be okay, I guess, if they're not lobbing heads off. Sometimes. Yeah. Where he says, okay, everyone's gonna be in a competitive fight. No free lunch, no layups, no slam dunks here. You know what? Go over to boxing, my sport, the sport I love, 50 years in this sport. You got 4 or 5 power brokers, the big name, whether it's Hearn, whether it's Warren, whether it's Bob Arum, whether it's De La Hoya, who's the other guy that's hiding on me? Whoever it is, you got those power brokers, right? Al Heyman, PBC, and they're with their sugar daddy. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say their sugar daddy is the network. Their network keeps them going. So they're with their individual networks, and all they care about is their piece of property. They're not caring about the whole sport. All they care about is their little piece. Guess what? Sometimes their little piece hinders the rest of the sport. So they got their stable of 30, 40, 20, 50 guys, whatever. And they ain't let them go across the street to make that fight we had in the 80s. Lennon versus Lennon versus Hearns, Hagler versus Lennon. This one for whoever it was. Duran, they're not allowing that if they're not signed with them. Yeah. So you got to go across the street to make the fight that the fans want, that's going to make the sport healthy again, that you guys are talking about. There it is. No, you ain't going across. Why can't I go across? Because you're with me. You're with me, and I only care about me and my network and getting undefeated records and building guys up and keeping it in-house. I'm not letting it go out of house. So they don't let it go out of house. And what happens? The sport shrinks. Yeah, I said it. The sport shrinks. My sport that I love.
The truth.
It has shrunk because of that. And guess what's not shrinking? UFC. And again, it's not complicated. It's simple. All they're doing is putting competitive. Every week you put it on. You might put a fight on ESPN or on Showtime or wherever, and you're just going to see a guy that's got no chance. No chance. And you see, once in a while they throw you a bone, but you see too many of these non-competitive fights that they're just building their guy up, getting them ready to make more money, and keeping the network happy, but not the fans. And then all of a sudden you put on UFC week in and week out, and the guy could have 7 losses, 6 losses, 5 losses. It don't matter if he's undefeated. You know why? He went through the fire. He got forged. He learned how to fight, and he's dangerous. And he could beat an undefeated guy. You get upsets. You don't get too many upsets anymore in boxing. You get upsets, and people love upsets. Oh, my God. I'm going to watch this show on UFC next week because they're all going to be good fights. Oh, who are these guys? This guy got 5. Don't matter. He's a monster. Because
they're all competitive.
And every week.
Every one of those fights, you never know.
It's going to be competitive every week. And that's all you need to know. Yeah. And that's what's selling.
What got me into it.
There it is. And I'll tell you what, I have a podcast. And pardon me for being so just taking it on myself to say it on.
Oh no,
on a
I want you to
great
say it.
platform.
No, of course.
But,
No, we're gonna have it in the description and
yeah.
everything. We got your clothing site to pull
I
up. You got all
appreciate
kinds of good stuff.
But the podcast, I don't know if it's 2 years ago, whatever it was, year and a half, whatever ago, we went to another place.
What's the name of the podcast?
It's The Fight with Teddy Atlas.
And that will be in the description, everybody. Make sure you check it out.
Thank you.
Subscribe. He's a great guy.
Appreciate it, you guys. The point I'm making here is we grew to another place when we started covering UFC. I never thought I'd cover UFC. I gotta be honest. I'm a lifer, right? Boxing life. UFC, come on, brutal. It's barbaric. I gotta say what I was thinking. Barbaric.
That's
caveman.
what I was thinking too.
Yeah, caveman. And then I started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. My sport's tough.
A lot more to it.
But we got to deal with lefts and rights, punches. They got to deal with kicks, knees, elbows, and then that's only standing. Then you got to get on the freaking floor and you got to deal with something called jiu-jitsu and grappling and wrestling and
Karate's in
and
that
karate. Oh wow! And then I'm thinking, these guys they got to deal with all that. I mean, we get upset when we drive through a snowstorm, that you say, so you got to follow the line. Like, it's hard to navigate. These guys got like cows coming at them and dogs and cats and rocks. And and they're driving through that in the ring. I mean, it's equivalent to that with the knees and everything else. So they got all this stuff to negotiate, all this stuff to deal with. And they got to get in there and deal with all of that and find science to it. Find a way to deal with that. Otherwise, they would get obliterated, every one of them, in 40 seconds. Yeah. With the seriousness of this, with 4-ounce gloves, and knees and kicks, and like I said, on the floor. I'm watching them on the floor one day, and I'm just amazed. I'm looking at it, and I used to get bored with that. That's boring. They're not standing. They're not doing my thing. They're not doing the thing I like. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching them saying, holy crap, I'm watching chess. I'm watching floor chess, but it's a little more brutal. But I'm watching chess. This guy getting his legs in this place, his hands, and those guys on UFC, the commentators are brilliant. They're great because they teach you. Whether it's DC or Rogan or Bisbang or John Anik or there's a couple of them I'm missing, but they're telling you what's going on. Oh, if he gets his hand in here, he's in trouble because he'll be in an arm lock.
You're right. And they break it down real simple so you can understand.
And then you start saying it's not just a cafeteria at high school where a couple guys are on the floor.
Anything goes.
These guys are maneuvering.
And like you said, and I compare things to football. And this is my weird thought process that I had. So you're talking about boxing where you don't see the guy who has to grind or not grind. I don't mean it like that. Fight a good guy, get his ass kicked, he learns from it, he becomes better, and then eventually he takes on the champ. Even with football, at the younger levels all the way up, they build these super teams now. So at 12 years old, you got a super team. In high school, you have a super team. In college, you have a super team. NFL's a little different because there's a salary cap and you can't buy all the super guys.
True.
The guys that, in college I compare it to, guys that go to Alabama. Nick Saban's a great coach, gets 5 stars, 4 stars, great teams, all that type of stuff. When you become surrounded by 5 stars, yeah, you're good, but you kind of can relax a little bit, doze off a little bit, right? Our team's good, again, we're stacked, we're this or that. The guy that goes to that small little college who has to bust his balls and take the hits and get his ass kicked and all that type of stuff, when he gets to the NFL, those are the guys you're seeing, the Cooper Kupps of the world, the guys who had a grind it and bang. And the guys you think these first-round draft picks become nothing because they didn't take the licks and the banks because they were put on these super teams. So I know I'm comparing two different sports.
No. You're right on the button.
They got the line.
You're on the mark.
They got the line of the world so they don't get hit.
You're on the button.
But I think we're destroying, and I say it in the youth level too because I compare everything to the youth level. I know it's crazy.
He coaches
sports.
He
sports. It's nothing big, but they put together
it's
the
all
super
big.
teams.
Got to start somewhere.
It starts there. You're putting together the super team. When they get to high school, you put together the super team. What happened with, you went to this school, you lived in this neighborhood, you played, and there was competition.
Rivals.
There's not competition anymore. There isn't. Kids leave and they go to the St. Thomas Aquinas of the world down south there in Fort Lauderdale. Great school, amazing powerhouse. They beat the shit out of teams. what does it do for the rest of the sport? It destroys it because kids quit, because they're tired of getting pounded, because all the good and whatever it is. But it should be where you want to challenge. I don't want to just go and steamroll a team and steamroll a team and steamroll a team. I want to fucking challenge, and that makes you better. I mean, I know it's two different sports.
No.
Same principle.
No, I'm gonna jump on it right here. You see too often with what I described with the power brokers that have their stable fighters and all they care about is their little piece of property, and so what they turn ESPN whatever into, really, a lot of people ain't gonna like this, but they turn it into a breeding ground. They do. They turn it, to your point, they turn it in really to a farm system where they're developing farm kids for the pros. Mm-hmm. So, and at the peril of everybody else, where everyone else is an opponent. So they're signing this kid out of the Olympics, the top athlete in his area that you're talking about, the 5-star athlete, whether it's the McDonald's in basketball or whatever it is in football, the equivalent. But the 5-star athlete, they take him and they'll put him in this special place where they destroy everyone. And so now, does he really develop anymore? So I know he's got his talent. We get it. But what does he really develop inside? What other things does he do? Like I've been talking about with other things. So now in boxing, they go and they sign up these kids that are the equivalent of the 5-star athlete. The kid from the Olympics, silver medalist, gold medalist, bronze medalist, 300 amateur fights, right? And they sign them up and they say, okay, now here's your contract. You're on ESPN now. Here's the deal. You're going to be on TV. Normally you wouldn't be on TV with someone else. You're going to be on TV every week, and we're going to build you up. And they do. And they put them in with guys that really shouldn't be in the ring with them. And they're going right through them like a hot knife through butter. 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, 8-0.
Just like a super team.
Yeah, same thing. He's right on the button. And they're just going, but what are they really learning? What did they develop?
Nothing.
Some of them are actually
getting worse.
It's a detriment to them.
Yeah.
Because they're getting bad habits, because they're getting away with it, because they can get away with it where they shouldn't get away with it. And bad mental habits where everything is assumed that it should be given to them. Everything is automatic, that they don't have to find a way through something. You know, your greatest talent, your greatest ability is just the ability to find a way sometimes. That's simple. Oh, Teddy, don't you want to make it more complex? No, it's not more complex. Find a way. It ain't working. Find a way. They don't have to find a way. That's something that's not being used in them, not developed in them anymore. It should be developed in all of us all the time. So you take that away. So now these kids, they become 20-0, 15-0, whatever. That way, we got undefeated guys. And now they got to fight a real guy. And every once in a while, they fall on their face because they didn't get what they really needed. They had the talent, but they didn't develop it. To his point, they, mentally, emotionally, technically, they didn't develop it to that level. They didn't go through the fire. You know, the UFC, what he's talking about, the UFC, they're forced to go through the fire and get forged and to develop it. They're forced to. And so they get 3 losses. In boxing with these guys, it's a death sentence. Oh, my God. He's got a loss. We can't highlight him on our network. Yes, you can. Because all that matters is he can fight. And he will fight. That's all. Back in the day, in the 30s to 40s, when boxing was what it was, there were guys that had 200 pro fights, 300 pro, like the great Henry Armstrong, Sugar Ray Robinson, those kind of guys, Archie Moore. And it didn't matter if you had a loss or 2 losses or 3 losses. You know why? You learned how to fight. You learned your craft. You could depend on you. You could rely on you. Reliability, dependability, that's a great trait. We forgot about that. Great trait. Great trait. Mm-hmm. So I want to hire a guy who's reliable. I want a friend who's reliable. Not who's the smartest necessarily or the richest. I want a guy who's reliable. That's a trait I want, a quality I want. We need that quality more in everything. So now,
in life.
So now here you got these guys back in the day where they lose fights, but they learn how to fight. They went through what they had to go through to become something real, a real fighter. To understand even what that was, to be a fighter, a professional, a guy who found a way to do things even when it didn't feel good, even when he had to overcome something. And you don't learn that by being given layups and free lunches in life and trophies when you didn't earn a trophy. You don't learn that. You don't get that. You do the person a disservice. And we've done a lot of people disservices today in the society because of that. But again, to the point that we're talking about, those guys learned. They had 10 losses, and they could freaking go win a world title back in those days because they were real, because of what they went through, what they formed. Yep. The UFC fighters, every week you put it on, you see a guy with 8 losses, 9 losses, and he'll go beat an undefeated guy, or it'll be nip and tuck. Why? Because he wasn't given a free lunch, because he had to really become a UFC fighter. And all that encapsulates, all that really means, mentally, emotionally, technically, physically. And we've taken that away now, to your point, in many places. And
when you're working ESPN Friday Night Fights, you're seeing this with your own eyes?
I'm watching
you're watching
guys
it happen in real time, right?
Yeah.
You're like boxing just starting to fade, where the network is putting them in to make sure that they get 10, 15 and 0.
When I was doing it for 18 years run we had, we were using different promoters, and we were putting on up-and-coming guys in competitive fights sometimes. And we were getting some of that, some competitive fights. But here's the problem. When you go and you give the whole enchilada, you give the whole thing to one promoter like they have, right? Where and you give them a contract, right, guaranteed. Where is the incentive to put competitive fights on when they can just build a stable of these undefeated guys and just make money off of that? Where's the incentive now to put week in and week out a competitive fight for the audience? The incentive is if there's another promoter waiting in the wings, that if that show's not good, he gets the show. Give us something better. Competitiveness. You don't like one restaurant, the restaurant next door, go to that restaurant. Mm-hmm. They took that away. So you got a guy who can use the network basically, as I said before, a farm system, just to build their own personal stable of fighters, regardless of what is on that screen and the non-competitive crap that sometimes the fans, again, that it's chasing the fans away.
It is.
Deteriorating
both
the fan base.
Sitting here telling you as fans, they chased us away.
And that's why UFC, again, we're repeating ourselves. We're being redundant,
up.
But that's why it's blown up.
Yep.
And it keeps growing.
But I think that's what has to change too. It's back to competition. It's back to, you lose, you get back up, you figure out what your mistakes are, you move on. It makes 100%. You a stronger person. And again, I just see it too. I mean, I compare everything to the youth sports world just because I see it firsthand. And I just, you got basketball teams, stacked super teams, and they're beating up teams 100-30.
Yeah, it's absurd.
What are you getting out of that? Like, what do you get out of that?
And what are you doing to those poor kids? I mean, really, those kids that are going home and they lost 100 to 30.
They quit the sport.
Yeah.
They quit the sport.
That's the damage.
Yep.
They quit. Why?
And what do they do after
why?
they quit?
Because why would they not quit?
Right.
Like they get discouraged, they quit, and
got destroyed by 100 points.
Because you're always going to have, the way I look at it, you're always going to have your, like you said, your natural athletes, your guys that are they're going to put up 50 points a game in basketball. They're good. When you put all those guys on one team, first of all, there's only one ball to go around, which is always the thing. Who's going to get the ball? But if you have these guys, split up on these youth teams, this guy A is good, guy B is good, guy C is good, and they're all split up, and they're working now with average players, maybe not to their level, average, mediocre. They can make those players better. And then in the general run, it makes the competition better because now I'm battling against the guy who is my same person,
who is equivalent,
and it's going
to
bring out a better drive in me.
Oh,
but when I stack the team, it doesn't help anyone. It just ruins the sport.
Well, to the point we were talking about, these fighters don't get better. They don't learn what they're going to need when they fight the real guy. They're not gaining it. And I'll take it one other step. That we're doing a disservice to us in general, to us, to this great country, where not everyone's going to be a professional basketball, baseball. I think we get that. Football, fighter. They're not. But going through what they're going to go through, if they're allowed to go through it in the proper phase of things, the proper process through their adolescence of sports, which I think is very important for a lot of reasons, more than just taking care of your body, more than just throwing a baseball or football or basketball, whatever, where they're going to learn life lessons.
Yep.
They're going to learn that you don't give up. They're going to simple things. They're going to learn that you can figure out a way to beat a better team sometimes. You'll see these upsets where you see that they win against sometimes better team, better athlete, but they're better organized. They're better drilled. They're better technically. They're more controlled. They're tougher mentally. And they'll pull off an upset against better play. Now, some of those kids that do that or part of that, they're not going to go on to the NBA. They're not even going on to Division I, sports necessarily. But they're going to go on to be our teachers, our doctors, our lawyers.
Correct.
Everything that we need, our lifeblood of this country.
Yep.
Our carpenters, or whatever you want to freaking put on that list, they're going to go on to be those people. And what they learned there through those trials and tribulations, through those lessons that I just talked about, that you guys have been talking about,
Amen.
that is what's going to allow them to be those guys, to be better in their field, to be good enough in their field to help other people. To be part of this fabric of this country.
And on top of that, when Rob told me that they took woodshop out of school, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they took woodshop out and art. I couldn't believe it. Woodshop was the only thing that was kind of like cool to go to.
I remember my kid, my son Teddy, and I remember he was about, I don't know, playing CYO basketball, and I guess he was about 9, maybe even. Yeah, a little cute little guy. And I'm at all those games, when I'm not away in training camp or doing ESPN, but I'm always getting back, taking red eyes, coming back, doing what any father would do. And I'm there in the gym for this game. And I remember one game, he won the game. Every kid should have a chance to do that. That's it. Just have a chance to do that. Mm-hmm. And there was like seconds left. And they didn't have the ball. So it looks like they're going to lose. And he steals the ball. He dribbles. I know it's like I'm making it up, but it's true. He dribbled, and he just dribbled. And I'm looking at the clock. Oh, it could get a little closer, but don't wait too long. Oh, my God. Don't wait too. And just
nails it,
and he wins.
Oh,
and everyone jumped on him. I thought he was going to get killed. He's a little thing. They got him on the floor. They smothered him. The whole thing.
Isn't that what it's all about, though?
But here's the thing. To your point, you guys, and that's why this show's important, to bring stuff like, really, I mean that. He was never going to go on to be an NBA player. But you know what? When we left there, I remember talking to him, telling him how proud I was, and he felt so good. Yep. And where else could you get that? Not too many places. And then I remember putting my arm around him and saying, never forget that you could count on yourself. I never forget saying that to him. I'm coming from a place where, in my world, so I'm thinking things like that, I guess. But still, I just said to this 9-year-old kid, 8-year-old, whatever he was, I said, always remember, buddy. I used to call him Buddy. I still do. Buddy, remember, you could count on yourself. And just that stayed with him, that you could rely on yourself, that you could trust yourself, that you could find a way. That lesson helped him through everything else, which I'm very proud. My daughter's a lawyer. I'm so proud of her.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My son was the director of scouting in the NFL, 14 years in the NFL.
Wow.
Not for long, it stands for.
Still,
and he lasted 4 regime changes with the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, then the Vegas Raiders.
Wow.
And then the last crew that came in from New England, they got rid of everyone. And he didn't survive that one. 4 of them, new administrations, he survived. So right now he's working for the NFLPA while he's waiting to get with another team. And he'll get with another team. He's
Congratulations.
Good. He's that good. And God willing, he will. And he will. But just little basketball in a little gym. But he wasn't 6'3". He was never going to be. He was never going to be going to Duke.
He wasn't going to be doing 360.
He wasn't going to North Carolina. You know what I mean? But he found out that day. Yeah, he found out that day that I could count on myself. When push comes to shove, there's a little nerve. So I said to him, I broke it down. I couldn't help it. Analytical, the box. Yeah, I said, Bud, let me ask you a question. How'd you steal that ball? He said, Dad, and he used to love watching sports with me. He goes, remember when we were watching the tape you were showing me of Larry Bird? I said, yeah. And Magic Johnson? I said, yeah. He goes, well, I remember a game you were watching with me where you told me, and I was watching, I saw it, where Larry Bird stole the ball. You guys probably remember the game. It was a famous game. And at the last second, they won the game.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, so I did what he did. I said, well, I didn't even know. I said, well, what did he do? He goes, I hid behind the guy.
Shit.
He goes, so I hid behind the guy, and when he went to make the pass, I came out. And then I said, well, how did you shot it at pretty much the perfect spot. You got close enough. He said, I knew when I did it, you always tell me to be aware of your environment. We always would say that because, beware of everything. So I knew that there was 3 seconds left. So I counted 1,000, and I counted to 2, and then I shot. I said,
wow.
I said, I was so proud of him. I was like, oh my goodness.
Fucking smart.
I said, that's genius. Where'd you come from? Like, you didn't,
are you sure I'm your dad?
you didn't get that from me.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
no.
That's where I think in youth sports and in general, I think everything starts there, right? Of course, we know it does, and we're doing a disservice to ourselves by what we're doing. As it could be boxing, it could be baseball, it could be football. One last story I'll tell you quick, just because it's really a passion of mine with these kids. We had this kid, he must be 250 pounds. He's 12 years old. He's a big boy.
Gee.
Big boy.
250.
He gets picked on. He goes to my son's school. He gets picked on in school for being fat. Well, he doesn't realize his own strength yet. He's a big kid. So we asked him to play football. His mom was hesitant. Oh, he doesn't really play football. He doesn't have a dad, at least that I know of in his life. Real good kid. So he comes out the football field, big boy, looking at the other kids looking. I'm like, God damn. And he starts off, he's just, there's nothing. It's trying to teach him the basics, the footwork, the steps, all this type of stuff.
Almost like the movie Blindside.
Yeah, correct. That's what I compare it to almost. So he's just and he doesn't really push into people. He's big. So season goes on, He gets a little better, still not great. So we have one last practice 2 weeks ago, and I do the old Rudy skit where you have the kids on both sides, and I'm holding the bag. I give them the 20-yard running head start. Just hit me, crush me, hit me. So whatever. They come, they hit the bag. He's the last one to go. The whole team gets around him and starts pumping him up. Kid hardly speaks a word, right? They do that. And comes flying down and rails me, hits me. I'm like, whoa, where the fuck did that come from? Our season just ended. His mom came up to me and she says, thank you guys for everything you did this year. Khalil can't stop talking about how he wants to play football again and how he realizes he may be big, but he's mighty. And that right there was enough for me. I said, that's why
you do this.
Why you do it, and why it helps kids. And by doing these super teams and these power teams and all this type of stuff, you may lose kids like that. And he has potential. He's a big kid, and who knows where he can go from here. But yeah,
it's a great story.
Anyhow.
But it's an important story, and it's what we spend a lot of time on here. Is that it's those things that were taken away from these kids being able to learn, that they need somewhere to learn those things, somewhere for those things to get introduced to them, to be absorbed by them. They need somewhere, and they get it in a little league. They get it in, and when you take that away, and you say, oh, it's only about the elite athlete, then you're taking away all these kids that become the people we talked about before, because they learned those lessons, because they developed those attributes. Because, like my son survived 4 regime changes over at Oakland and Vegas.
And that's a rough team to be.
Every time.
Ooh.
And he survived every time. He was still kept, except the last time. Every time they made a mistake, by the way. Look at the way they're playing. And I'm just...
I don't know. We can pull it up right now if you want to.
Yeah. Look, they lost 24-0 to the Saints last week. Not that I'm keeping score.
Right.
You know. Not that I get any satisfaction out of that. I don't.
No,
not at all. Not at all. I'm above that.
Don't worry, they're going to get...
I'm big. I'm bigger than that.
They're
But
going to get destroyed next week. Don't worry.
I hope. I mean, no. I mean, I said
You wish the best.
Yeah, I wish the best for them. Yeah. So, but again, if he's not playing in that little gym basketball, right, and we're just having the guys that are over 6 foot playing or whatever, but if he's not playing that game, maybe he doesn't learn what he learned right there that day.
Yep.
And that heavy kid that finally got the kids rooting behind him that didn't maybe have the self-confidence now went, hit that bag, probably almost knocked him over.
I almost did.
Went home, and now he can't wait to play again. And now he feels good about himself.
100%.
You know,
And where's that gonna take him?
That's going to whether it's football, business, whatever. That moment right there with him probably changed his whole entire life.
I agree.
Especially when the mom comes and says, "Hey, you know, from a kid that doesn't really talk, all he could talk about is football next year." That's what they're fucking taking away from everybody.
100% it opens the door for a life for this kid.
Not just
a life that would have been missed.
And what these people don't understand is it's not just about the sport. It's about going through that wherever it leads you.
100%.
You know?
That's why everyone can't get a trophy.
No.
Because then there's no separation.
It's crazy.
Correct.
Why would I go in a ring and get my head pounded in if everybody's going to get a trophy? Why? Why would you go in a ring and get your head pounded in if everybody else is going to get a trophy too, whether they take the blows like I do or not? So you and I go in, we both train like crazy, run in the sand, do all the crazy shit, get popped a gazillion times and win, but then the guy next to me who threw one swing and got knocked out in the first round, but I went 8 and took a ton of blows, he gets the same trophy or necklace that I did. Yeah. That I would quit. I'd be like, I'm not doing this. This is insane. I'm not going to go and, risk my brain every day and my life and give up, 9 months out of a year for what?
100%.
I mean, and that's not that I'm not being competitive. I'm super competitive. But if there's nothing to be competitive for, what's the point?
It's true.
And that's how bad it's gotten. I'm just glad it didn't happen when I was going. But now I have a kid, and she's 2. I hope this shit changes because it's bad.
I have grandchildren. I have beautiful grandchildren. My son has a little 4-year-old boy. My daughter has a beautiful 3-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy that just turned 3 and 5. I don't see my grandson enough. They still living in Vegas, but we're praying that he's going to get a job on the East Coast. But maybe. Whatever. But we go there. He comes here. He's coming in. He's coming in for the foundation dinner that's coming up. Actually, he's going to come to the garden with me. ESPN has me, go figure, 50 years in boxing. They don't got me covering boxing. It's all right because they're smarter than me. But they got me covering the UFC at the garden. That big show with Adesanya on top and Poirier and Chandler. Unbelievable.
Congratulations.
Yes. So I'm going to cover that one. And Teddy's going to fly in. His family's flying in for the dinner, for the foundation dinner November 17th. But that fight at the garden is like 5 days earlier. So he's going to come with me. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about that.
Last question, then I'll pull some things. Do you think Floyd Mayweather is the best defensive fighter you've ever seen?
No, but he's a damn good one. But Pernell Whitaker was damn good. People forget about him.
Yeah.
He was freaking good. We've had guys. Mayweather is one of the most accomplished to get to where he's gotten as a great defense. That being his forte, his greatest asset was his defense. And of course his counter punching that came off of that, and everything else. But
What was the one fight we were saying, Rob, that he actually got hit pretty good? There was one fight he took some blows. Who laid one on him? Who?
No. Well, he did catch him. You're right. Sugar Shane caught him a punch, but then he fought Castillo on the way up. Early in his
Castillo, the one that got a lot in on. There was one
very
fight where
close
he actually got he really actually took some hits.
Yeah, there's been a couple. I mean, he's a fighter. I mean, I always talk about on my podcast, it's not enough to know how to fight like a fighter. You better know how to behave like a fighter. So at the end of the day, that's what separates the real special ones. They also know how to behave like a fighter, And Floyd, obviously, if his talent kept him from showing that all the time, where a lot of people say, I'm not sure about this guy. You know what I mean? Because and then when he had to, he showed it. That kind of takes me, you know what that takes me to? Takes me to Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard was, I think, one of the greatest fights I ever saw. And Duran, too. And when they fought the first time, and Duran beat him, a lot of people only saw Sugar Ray as a guy who knew how to smile, a guy who had a lot of talent, a guy who had 7-Up commercials, a guy who had charisma, a pretty boy. But they didn't trust him yet, the real boxing guys. They didn't trust him that he was a fighter. Like they said, oh, he's just a guy with a lot of talent, almost like a spoiled kid. Like he's got too much. He's got too much. He's never tested. Like it's almost like they resented that. It's almost. And then he fights Duran and fights him maybe the wrong way. He fights his fight. He fights inside with Duran, and he loses. But he gained everyone's respect. They were like, no, he's a fighter. He with all his wins, he was undefeated, and with all his talent and everything, he hadn't quite gotten people to buy into him in that kind of way into the Duran fight. After the Duran fight, it was like, yeah, he's not just a spoiled kid. He's not just a talented kid. He's not just a kid with a great smile. He's a fighter. And another thing that went with that, after that, he fought Tommy Hearns, which was unbelievable. And Hearns was winning. And then he came back late in 11th round, 12th round, whatever it was, 13th round maybe. It was a 15-round fight back then. And he came back, Leonard, and he stopped Hearns. He was losing a fight. I say to this day, to your point, to our point, to what we're talking about today to a great extent, if he doesn't take that fight and lose, he never beats Hearns.
Mm-hmm.
What he learned in losing that fight allowed him to beat Hearns.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's simple.
Sometimes you got to lose to win.
Yep.
And that he would have lost to Hearns. There's no doubt in my mind if he hadn't fought that fight and lost and learned what he learned and gone through what he went through in the Duran fight.
Who's the best fighter you've seen?
Well, can I go back to film or anything?
Yeah, just like,
my favorite
overall, just one. Who's the number one fighter you would pick if you had
Henry Armstrong?
Yeah,
almost 300 fights, 200 something, whatever. Listen, this is all you need to know. I'm going to tell you a funny thing about Henry, and you guys are going to love it.
300 fights.
Yeah, well, close to it. He had like 110 knockouts.
Wow.
This is a guy.
Jeez.
There's parts to this, but this is a guy who won. Forget about the junior titles back in those days. There was only one champion, first of all. 11 champs, whatever it was. That was it. Not the the way it is today. All right, where there's 452 of them, or whatever, and probably 500 different classes.
Yeah.
So there was just a full weight class. That's it. No juniors, whatever. Okay, he wins the featherweight title. Pretty good. Damn. Back in those days, everyone tough fighters. Wins the lightweight title. Wins the welterweight title. And he defends all of them. All those titles, he defends them. Featherweight, lightweight, and welter. And it gets better. He then decides to fight for the middleweight title against Severino Garcia, and he wins. 15-round fight. But he didn't make a deal with the fellas, so they screwed him, and it was a draw. He won the fight. So he should have had featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight. But so he had 3 full titles, and he defended all 3. This guy was a monster, and he had the best fighting name nickname. He had a couple, but the one I loved the best, Homicide Hank.
That's good.
That's a great name.
When you
I
got
would
a-
not, just
when you
that
got a-
name alone, I'd be like, oh,
When you
shit.
got a phone call, see, back in those days, they were all tough guys. You know, they're all grizzled guys. Like, okay, when, how, when, where, that's what they needed. When, where, how much. Okay, a little different with the. So, okay, I got you a fight. The guy, the agent, their manager, got you a fight in 2 months. Okay, where? Okay, all right, how much? Yeah, okay. Who is it? Homicide Hank. Click. The phone went dead. I mean,
And who was the biggest? So you have like your Mount Rushmore, right? He's your guy up there, but like who? I guess who's the? I always ask this question, like people we haven't like who's the biggest dick in the sport that you remember growing up, or even throughout it? That was like, man, this guy's just a prick. He's just all talk. He's just a mouth. Any of those guys? I mean, sure, there's a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of mouths out there.
Which one do you narrow it down to, right?
I don't know if I could come up with one. I trying to think.
There's that guy that just runs his mouth, but he's just a complete dick too. Sometimes they do it for show, right?
Oh yeah,
Good for that.
because look, it's an entertainment business. You
correct.
want to make money, right?
Correct.
So that's part of it. There's no doubt, and they create these personas.
Sure.
No doubt about it. Hey, look, Ali was one of those guys that talk, but he backed it up. He backed it up, but he knew what he was doing. He wasn't always only one of the greatest fighters of all time, but maybe one of the greatest promoters, if not the greatest.
Yeah.
People miss that. He was a great promoter. So
I wasn't alive when he was fighting, but I watched him because everybody would talk about him. You know what I mean? Because he was, like you said, he marketed himself unbelievably.
yeah.
Ali, I mean, just, everybody knew.
He was so witty, he was so smart. I mean, the things he would come up with, he would just, with the poems, the things. I was a big Ali fan when I was a kid, and I would embarrass myself sometimes doing imitations of Ali, like when he was getting ready for the fight of the century. Joe Frazier's so ugly that when he cries, his tears see his face, and they crawl back in his eyes.
Oh, shit.
I mean, that's not nice, but I mean, it
makes you want to watch it.
Yeah, it was all and then he said, Joe gonna come out smoking, but it ain't gonna be a choking. I'm gonna be a pecking and a poking, pouring water all over his smoking. Now this may shock and amaze you. I'm going to retire smoking Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
See, like you said, I mean, you can't be a better promoter than that.
I mean,
you can't pay
come on,
somebody to do better
right?
than that, right?
I mean, I remember Mickey Duffer was a great boxing guy from London, and I trained some of his fighters, and he was the biggest guy over in London. But he was huge. He ran everything back in those days, and now it's Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren's son. But back then, he told me a story about Ali. He had Ali in England fighting somebody. I forget who it was. And he wanted to get his gloves and donate them to a charity, like to a hospital or something where they were raising money for the hospital. So he went up to Ali. Ali was a good guy. And he said, Muhammad, can I get those gloves after your fight? And he goes, yeah. He agrees to give them to him. So after the fight's over with, I think he stopped the guy. I don't remember what round, but say it was 6. And so he takes the gloves off right there at ringside. He's standing there, and he hands him the gloves. He said, thank you, Muhammad. And then Muhammad said, Mickey, look inside the right hand. And he looks inside the right hand. He will fall in 6. And yeah, true story.
Wow.
Yeah, and Ali would hit those things once in a while. Hey, look, if you have your own music, the old timers would say, bring your own music. You know what I mean? Like if you had the right opponent, you could control it a little better. Because he overmatched with some guys, but he fought obviously a lot tough guys too. But he would pick rounds. He was kind of famous for that. He's you're gonna fall in whatever round, and he would hit it. He'd hit it sometimes. So that just added to his legend,
intensity.
his mystique, his all that stuff.
I love the meaning behind 36,
Yeah.
right? So tell us the meaning behind 36.
You
You got, what was it, 36 minutes in life?
Yeah, 36 minutes because it's, now it's 12 3-minute rounds. So
Yeah.
36 minutes. 36 minutes to make life fair. It's a young guy that owns Box Raws, the company. And he came to me a couple of years ago and to my daughter, the lawyer, and because no one could get me because I'm a caveman. They can't. They don't even know how to get me. So he came to my daughter and said, listen, I'd like to do a clothing line, a 36 Teddy Atlas line with your father if you'd be up to it. So the 36 that he came up with, and he told the story. He said, and he told my daughter, because she said, why are you calling it the 36 line?
They're selling.
Yeah,
you're sold out of half your stuff.
Yeah, it's a good product. He's a former fighter, and he does a good job. The quality of the clothing is really top shelf. It really is, and he puts his heart and soul into it. And I feel privileged that he came to me to do a Teddy Atlas line. And what he said to my daughter said, well, why'd you say Teddy Atlas 36? And he said, well, a couple years ago, I was listening. I hadn't even started the company yet. I was getting the idea of it. And I listened to Teddy on an interview, wherever it was, ESPN, whatever. And somebody asked him, said, what does boxing mean to Teddy Atlas? Like, what does it really stand for? Like, we understand, the sport part of it, but beyond that. And he said, I'll never forget, your father said, well, for me, boxing means that no matter where you came from, no matter what your religion, your creed, your nationality, your race, no matter where you were born, who your parents were, what you didn't have, how things might sometimes have, been unfair and life treated you unfair, that on one given night, if you were determined enough, if you were trained well enough, if you cared enough, you could get in the ring and in 36 minutes, you could make life fair. And he said, as soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm going to do a clothing line. I'm going to get a company, which he was on the process of doing. And when I do, I'm going to get a Teddy Atlas 36 line. So that's where that came from.
Awesome. And then we have your book. You ever think you'd be an author?
No. I mean, I was afraid to be. Yeah, I was afraid to put that stuff on paper.
Yeah.
I actually waited till my kids were old enough to finally say yes, because they had been asked earlier. I say, yeah, now they could hear it.
Now that they're older,
Yeah, they could hear it.
Yeah. And it's From the Streets to the Ring, A Son's Struggle to Become a Man. Yeah. Kindle, audiobook, paperback. We'll have all that in the description.
I'll buy that one. I'm going to read that.
And then you do boxing
audio.
videos.
How come audio? So it's not free. Oh, with your trial.
With your trial.
Yeah, you get a trial, and then you can choose
probably
to buy
a
it.
piece of it, I'm sure.
Oh.
And then you have you're still doing this? The dynamic striking?
Oh yeah, that's become very important to me.
Yeah. And it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we put instructional fight videos up on dynamic striking, and we've been blessed. They've done really, really well.
Go to all videos, Rob?
Yeah. You know what? Now there's 15, and you guys could probably guess why I came up with old school 15 rounds. Yeah. So I came up with 15 instructional on everything, like inside fighting, jab, whatever it is, counter punching, defense, body punching. Each one is on individual specific things, and there's 15 of them. And then we got to a point where I wouldn't do any more. I said, I can't do any more because I can't make stuff up now. What, you jump up on your left leg and you punch with your right hand? I'm not going to do that. So these are the things I think you need to really be a complete fighter. So the two guys, they're jiu-jitsu guys. And before they came to me, everything they did was MMA, basically. So they came to my daughter to ask if I would do the boxing part, the striking with them, and bring that up to another place, hopefully. And we've been very fortunate, very blessed. And when they came to us, and we did, we did those, and there's my friend. There's I mean, you got some really. I'm the, I almost feel embarrassed to be in that company. I mean, you got all these.
You got some haymakers.
Yeah, really.
That row right there, buddy.
You got all the special guys. So we did 15 of them, and they came to me and they said, Teddy, is there any more? You have a voice out there, thank God, and people trust it, and we want to see if there's more. I said, well, no more instructional. 15 is enough, and it's right. It's the right number. But how about we do some mental ones? And they said, okay, what? I said, well, how about we do some on the mental landscape, which is the most important landscape. Confidence, dealing with fear, controlling your fear, gaining more confidence, being able to keep, as I used to say, keep the ninjas from coming over the wall and attacking you, your imagination, all of the things that can compromise us, even if we have great talent, even if we prepared hard. And how about talking about that? They said, we love it. And I said, and then how about doing one on something that's terrible out there right now that we really need? Bullying. About kids that get bullied, for the parents and for the kids. About bullying. And even taking it to a point where I break down what a bully is, and that the weak one, and this is the thing that I said in my first one, I said, the thing I tell the ones who are bullied, you're not the weak one. The bully's the weak one. That's why he's trying to get strength from your weakness, hoping you're weak, and hoping that he can, take advantage of that you won't fight back. But he's weak to do that. There's an inherent weakness in him, and there's an inherent strength in you that you don't have help. You don't have nobody around you. That you're not developed in this way. You're scared, and yet you're still dealing with it. You're still finding a way to deal with it and trying to find a way to deal with it. You're the strong one. You embrace that strength. Recognize that strength. So they said, yeah, we love it. So we did 3 more. So there's 18 altogether. And those are more on audio. And I said, we'll do one on the fear, controlling your fear for the average person. Controlling your fear, whether you're going to a board meeting, whether you're going into a classroom, whether you're a doctor, you're a lawyer going into the courtroom, whatever you're doing, that talking to those people, to the regular people, not the fighters. Then we'll do another one to the fighters. And then we'll do the bullying one. So we got those out there, and they just went out last month, actually. So I hope they're doing well.
Awesome. We'll have it on the description. And thank you, Teddy, for coming in. I hope you come back again because we could go another 3 hours, buddy.
How long do we go?
We're 3.5 right now.
I'm sorry.
No, we always do it. This is usual.
I got one more for him. One last question.
Yeah. No, this is usual, Teddy.
Really?
Yeah.
We
just sit like 3 guys and just hang out and shoot.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, that's what we do.
We ask this question all the time. We forgot the last guest who it was. Who was our? Oh, we had Lenny Dykstra in. We forgot to ask Lenny. Something.
Yeah.
All right.
Feisty guy.
The GOAT of the NFL, greatest of all time.
Well, I mean,
Quarterback.
Oh my goodness.
Throw you that one. Let's see what he says. Because Tommy has.
I'm gonna get buried.
Don't say your choice.
I'm not.
I have a choice, and Tommy has a choice.
You guys think I'm crazy because he wore the high heels, high shoes, high top shoes and stuff. Johnny Unitas.
All right.
Oh, we haven't heard that.
No,
one.
because you know why? I'll tell you why. I get Tom Brady. I get John Elway. I get Joe Montana. I get them all. I'm going to tell you why. There's a method to my madness. He did. He actually, I saw a picture of him wearing the high leather black shoes up high. It's crazy. He came out of Sandlot football. He was like basically playing Sandlot. He was playing semi-pro, whatever that freaking was, and they found him somewhere and plugged him into the NFL. Now Kurt Warner's great too. He came from arena football.
Yeah.
So I love those journeys.
Yeah.
I love those. But this guy basically was playing like an advanced Sandlot for like $30 a game, and he goes into the NFL and wins the Super Bowl and. And he didn't have all the great talent that the guys today have, with his arm strength and this and that, but he had this. And he had what we talked about before. Wherever that developed, it probably developed in the Sandlot. Thank God somebody didn't say you couldn't play freaking Sandlot anymore.
Right.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have had Johnny U. So that's
we forgot about Johnny. Yeah.
There's a lot. I say Montana. He says
I'm a Brady guy. I think Brady.
No, Brady's tremendous. How could you not love Brady? I mean, with what he's accomplished, what he's done, and what he's still doing at this age.
Yeah.
You just don't know when the spigot's going to be turned off, because I always would say about the fighters, because it happens in my business, so I get asked this a lot. Teddy, what do you think, makes a guy go too long? And, you saw him in my business, unfortunately, Joe Louis, who I loved, Ali, who I loved, some of them went too long. And I said the same thing that made him great, the ego, their belief that they can't turn it off. And sometimes it makes them go too long. Now, I don't know if Brady's on that road where, it end that way, or, he know when to turn it off, because he's still doing it at 45. But this year's been a little different, and he's had personal problems, and God willing, their work there's a family, there's kids involved, and you hope to God that they get to the right place for the sake of the kids and themselves.
Yesterday was finalized, the divorce,
was.
But you could see he looked a little skinny.
Not easy.
You got that stuff going on.
Yeah.
So how much of that is attributing to him having a tough year? Of course, and he missed the camp. My son, the scout, he's the man. He says, Dad, you forget he missed the whatever part of the camp.
Right.
He missed part of it, and
forgot about that.
He was training. He said, Dad, he was leaving and going back home and always practicing 3 days a week. He goes, that stuff matters when you're trying to connect with your receivers and everything else.
They say his timing's off right now.
Yeah, and see what he just said. My son, he's got to get back. He will. He's really good. He said, Dad, they're not on the same page. They will get on the same page. I said, really? He said, it's going to take part of the year. It's going to take but the timing, just the way he said it was just what I said first. They're not on the same page, and he missed camp and he missed practices, and it means something.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
So,
who does he think's going to win? Who's your son? Who do you think your son's picking?
He told me before the season started. He said Philadelphia is good, and
you just made
my
his
man.
day.
And
I'm a Philly guy too.
I'll tell you what else he told me. And I don't think every scout would have said
they
this.
are fucking good.
He's feeling good. I'm glad. This is what he told me. He said, Dad, I like this guy hurt. I said, really? I said, a lot of people, I hear the stuff. I'm no expert in football. I'm not Vince Lombardi. But that he's more of a running back. He's physical. He's this, he's that. He goes, Dad, the guy's got character. Mm-hmm. He said, do you understand? He said, Dad, they pulled him in the national title game. They pull him. They pull him out. They put in Tua, and Tua's tremendous. What he did, unbelievable. But they put him in there, and he's just done. He's forgotten about. He's on the shelf. And what does he do? He doesn't give up. He doesn't sulk. He doesn't whatever. He transfers to Oklahoma, and look what he does. Look what he does there. And he said, Dad, this kid's got that stuff inside that you talk about with fighters and stuff, and that I look for, that I've learned to look for, not just on film, other stuff deeper. He said, he's got this. And I'll tell you, he's becoming a quarterback. Yeah, he's strong as hell. He's got legs that are unbelievable. He is so strong and powerful, but he's becoming a quarterback. And he said, don't count this kid out. And when he said it was before, this year, I was like, really? That's the guy you're picking? He said, I'm telling you, Dad, you watch. He's going to surprise people.
And now look.
And
so far.
So far.
Shirt even.
That's unbelievable, Ben.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your son.
And
congratulations on your daughter in case you get in trouble again.
No, you know what? I joke with her. Like at the foundation dinner, we'll have 1,000 people, God willing, to raise money November 17th at the Hilton on Staten Island. And we'll have all these great people like Tracy Morgan and Evander Holyfield and Phil Simms, and just we're very blessed. Rosie Perez, whatever, and just so many. And I'll get up there and I'll, thank everybody and do a little talk. And I introduce my family, because without family, what would the worth of doing anything be if you didn't have them to share it with you? And it would take away from that worth a lot. The gratification of knowing that you can share something with your family. And so I'll get up there and I'll make the whole room start giving a little giggle, where I say I'll go through each one of them. I'm proud of them. And my daughter Nicole, so proud of you. The only complaint I have, why couldn't you become a lawyer 30 years ago? I could have used you.
That's good, man. But I mean, 2 great kids you raised, man. Congratulations. You're smart as a whip, genuine, nice guy.
Thank you,
man.
Thank you,
not
guys.
Enough to say about you. Great time. Love to have you back. We could go.
I really enjoyed being here with you guys.
Yeah, man, we had a blast.
You're telling me congratulations to you guys for building this up and having this audience. And I can see why, because you're real.
I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
And you're not filtered. You say what should be said for the reasons that it should be said. I think we all should do that more, or should be allowed to do that. Should feel free to do that. Within the right confines of what's proper, but we should be allowed to say what we believe.
And what we say is, even if, say, just one person watches this and one person it touches, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
it's all that matters. When we have conversations like this, we're talking about real shit that's going on. Even if it just touches one person, it was worth everything.
And it usually does.
Yeah.
But congratulations to you guys, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, and love to have you back.
I'll leave with this one last thing. Every once in a while, I come out of retirement. Last time was 3 years ago, whatever.
Come back out?
No. You'll be the first to know. You'll be the first to know. But I came out.
You got to keep your word on that when you come back out. I can see you're itching. You're fucking itching.
No, I don't know. It would have to be the right situation. Obviously, we always know that. But the last time, I don't know, it was 3-4 years ago, whatever.
He's coming back.
And I came back. No, I don't know. And I came back, and
Teddy,
we won the world title, the light heavyweight title.
You're coming back, you know it.
No, but, and people every once in a while, they say, and I came back and I'm retired again. But people would say, Teddy, what's it going to take to bring you back? And this is what I'll leave you with. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but a good person, because I think I've earned the right that it's a guy at a certain level. We know that. I think we understand that it's not going to be a 10-year project, but it's going to be a guy that needs help at that point to get to the next point. But it's just 3 things. One, it's someone I got to believe I can help him. If I don't really think I can help him, I'm just not going to do it, because you can still make money, but I'm not perfect. I'm not a priest. But if I don't think I can help him, then I'm not going to do it. The second thing is, will he let me help him? Is he coachable? That's the second thing. But the third, and it should be the first, is, and it's all contingent on that, is he a decent person? A decent human being that I want to be around. Leave my family, even now later that I was doing it for so many years, but leave my family for 2 months in a training camp, whatever, and be around. Is it a person that I actually like?
And want to be around, right?
Want to be around that person. If it's not, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. I don't know if
cheating them too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I got older. I think there's a degree of this, but I want to be around good people. And I just finished with this. I was around good people today.
Oh,
and to me, that's a gift. To me, it's a good day. So it was a good day.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Teddy. Appreciate it, sir.
Let me shake your hands the right way.
The right way. We were trying to reach over 2 bars. This podcast is brought to you by Liquid IV. This is a product I always use after I run, work out, and do the sauna. It's a great way to hydrate the body and feeling your best self. All you do is 1 stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water. It hydrates the body faster and more efficient than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes as other sports drinks, and contains 5 essential vitamins: B5, B12, B3, B6, and vitamin C. It also tastes great. Flavors like watermelon, lemon lime, strawberry, and many more. Buy in bulk at Costco or go to liquidiv.com and use the code MSCS Media, no space, for 15% off. No other way to hydrate the body.